Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk on a Wednesday afternoon in the capital city of Kansas. Good afternoon to you. Hope you are having a wonderful day. Thank you for joining us for the next 3 hours. We've got 580 Sports Talk coming at you at 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and on our video channels. You can catch us on our YouTube channel. The name of the channel is 580 Sports Talk. You can also find us on Facebook at WIBW News. Dan Lucero, Brendan Dworzinski with you. I think we're running the two-man game today. Spencer Dupuy, I believe, was questionable at game time decision. You're not. You got the wrong switch. You got to flip your switch there, and yeah, there you go. That'll do it.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I got you.
All right, yeah. Downgraded to doubtful.
Okay, all right. So it looks like it'll probably be just the two of us. We can make it if we try. And the two of us and all of you for the next 3 hours, 3 to 6, here on 580 Sports Talk. Lots to get to today. It is mid-season in the National Football League. And in that spirit, we've got some mid-season awards to give away, some superlatives, if you will, or whatever the opposite of superlatives is. Like, what's a superlative but bad? Like, what's the thesaurus antonym for superlative? Derogative?
A negative superlative? Sublative.
A sublative.
Well, no, hold on. That's wrong.
Okay.
All right, I'm not on an actual dictionary here. I'm on a dictionary message board.
They got message boards for dictionaries?
Oh, yeah.
They want to fire the guy that put crunk in the dictionary.
Yeah, okay.
Message boards for dictionaries.
All right, so user MetaEd believes that superlative doesn't have an antonym.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Thank you, MetaEd, for clearing that up for us.
The opposite of a superlative for a given adjective would be to use the antonym of that adjective in its corresponding superlative.
Ah.
Got that?
No.
So the opposite of the superlative for best would be just simply worst.
Sure. No, I get that. All right.
Thank you, MetaEd, with help from Grugmon.
I'm really glad they've chimed in today.
The English Language and Usage Message Board.
So good or bad superlatives and awards, not just for the Chiefs at the midway point, because we are, even though the Chiefs have not played half of their games by percentage, you cannot play half of seven. I mean, you can't play half of 17 games. Technically speaking, the midway point will be Sunday afternoon when the first half concludes at Arrowhead Stadium against the Broncos. But the season itself, 18 weeks, is half over. We are through week 9. Week 10 starts tomorrow. So at the midway point of the season for the Chiefs, we'll give out some midseason superlatives. We'll also do it for the NFL as well in the 4 o'clock hour. Take a look at some league-wide awards and superlatives for the first 9 weeks. And take a peek into the crystal ball and try and guess at some second-half storylines that might face the Chiefs as they forge forward for their final 9 weeks, 9 games of this regular season. Lots of K-State to get to on the show today. Tim Fitzgerald, GoPowerCat.com, joins us every Wednesday for the Wildcat Wrap-up, typically at 4:35 today. He's going to join us earlier. He'll be on with us at 3:35 today. So in this hour, bottom of this hour, we'll be joined by Tim Fitzgerald, get his thoughts on K-State football's loss to Houston going into this bye week, how much this team needs that bye, and also some thoughts on K-State basketball in their season opener last night, a convincing second half performance anyhow in a win over New Orleans. Thought there was a lot more good than bad from the Wildcats last night. We'll get Fitz's thoughts on that as well. Again, Tim Fitzgerald will join us today at 3:35. And we'll get our thoughts in about that K-State win over the Privateers of New Orleans, including a stat about turnovers that has to be heard to be believed. KU fans, we haven't forgotten about you. We've got a KU player profile for you today. Been a minute since we've been able to do one of those. Logistics and bye weeks making that a little tough to connect. But today, earlier today, in fact, I had a chance to speak with senior offensive lineman Bryce Cabeldue. And I really enjoyed the chat because, yes, we talked about what KU needs to do to get their season back on a positive direction for these final 4 games of the season. But we also talked about his hometown and why he believes they have the best food in America.
Wow.
So we also talked golf. So excited to play that conversation with you.
An interview built for Dan.
Yes, it was a great conversation. We talked about Mexican food. We talked about golf. Yeah, exactly. It was very up my alley.
For what it's worth, the existence of Bryce Cabeldue also implies the existence of Bryce Satellite Don't.
I thought it would be satellite paid.
Oh, that's
like because it's spelled DUE, like the bill is due.
That's true.
The bill is over, like satellite overdue.
No,
perhaps.
that's a good idea.
Satellite tardy. Like I don't know. I don't. It's a very stupid joke, and we just
satellite purchase. Yeah.
We just beat it into the ground and made it worse. Anyway, our KU player profile this week, Bryce Cabeldue. We'll bring that to you in the 5:00 hour, along with some Royals hot stove rumors. Looks like the Royals are serious about maybe making a trade to bring a leadoff hitter to Kansas City and might be willing to part with a young pitcher in return. We'll talk about whether or not that's really all that good an idea and discuss the names posited as potential targets for that vital top-of-the-order slot ahead of Bobby Witt Jr. and company in that starting lineup. That and all of the things you've come to know and love from a Wednesday edition of the show. We'll have our sports headlines, 5:00 hour, 2 news stories on what is wrong with you. We'll play One Gotta Go, all the fun stuff that you've come to know and expect from 580 Sports Talk. Plus, your interactions with the show. They are invited and encouraged. The Top City Metal Supply text line is open, 785-272-9429. That is 785-272-9429. You can also, if you are watching on YouTube today, jump into the live chat. We appreciate Mark and Triple G and everybody else who either is watching, has chimed in, will chime in throughout the program today. The YouTube live chat, great place to interact, not only with your humble hosts, but also with your fellow listeners. And we hope that you will do that throughout the day if you are indeed watching us on our YouTube channel. That is 580 Sports Talk. You can also catch us, as I mentioned, on Facebook at WIBW News and send us some messages there. Before we get started, Election Day was yesterday, and broadly speaking, we know the outcome of all of the major races, both statewide and nationwide, and you do not come to us for political coverage or opinions or insight, and we are not going to give those to you today. There are plenty of places you can seek those out. This show is called 580 Sports Talk, and generally we are a product that does what it says on the label. So we'll continue to be that today. But also, it is the day after a presidential election, which only happens once every 4 years. And the results of said election feel like a gigantic elephant in the room. And it would, in my opinion, make us seem kind of foolish, kind of ostrich-like, heads in the sand, if we did not at least nod toward the elephant in recognition that it is indeed in the room. And in that spirit, I just wanted to start today's show with the thing that I closed yesterday's show with in the final word, the idea of being a good teammate. And that is your assignment in life. That is, I think, the most important thing in the world you can be is a good teammate. I hope that everybody I ever played sports with in my brief and, frankly, inessential sports career, and everyone I've ever worked with, shared a studio with, or an office space with, would say that I am a good teammate. I would hope that my spouse would say that about me. I hope that my son will say it about me when he's capable of speech. He's got a ways to go, but he does turn 5 months old today. So a quick happy 5-month-old.
Yeah,
happy 5 months old to Asher. I'm sure he would be appreciative, again, if he was capable of speech. But we are all teammates in the place where our feet are, and our responsibilities to each other as teammates are the same as they were yesterday before the polls closed, and they are the same always, and they will be the same in perpetuity. We have a responsibility to be good teammates to each other. And I think sometimes the more contentious these national elections get, the more we lose sight of the fact that however we vote, we got to be teammates again the next day. That doesn't change. And the assignment to be a good teammate doesn't change either. And being a good teammate sometimes means that someone on your team is hurting. Do you know, if you go to the New York Times right now and you look at the total election results for the state of Kansas, do you know how many more people in Shawnee County, with more than 95% of the votes counted, voted for President-elect Donald Trump rather than the outgoing Vice President Kamala Harris? Do you know the vote differential?
I actually do not.
31.
Wow.
31. That is the vote differential. In a county with 118,000 registered voters, 1/3 of whom, it must be noted, either did not vote for either of those two candidates, which means either they didn't like them very much and preferred a different candidate, or they just preferred not to vote, or maybe weren't able to vote. So, that's the difference. So you stand on your front porch today in Shawnee County and you flip a coin, look to your left, look to your right. You got heads delighted, tails demoralized with the results of yesterday's presidential election. So that means someone on your team might be hurting today. And what do you do when somebody's taken a blow and gotten knocked down on your team? You go give them a hand up, give them a pat on the back, and you play on. That's what good teammates do. And so my response to all of everything that has happened and unfolded in our nation in the last 24 hours is that your assignment and my assignment does not change. We got to be good teammates in our homes, in our own families, in our own neighborhoods, in our own communities, in our towns, in our cities, and in our states. And I hope that that is what we continue to aspire to be. I think it's the most important thing we can be. So I wanted to start the show with that. And now let's get to the sports if we can. The Kansas City Chiefs, they're 8-0 at the midway point. There's a lot more good than bad to say about the Chiefs at this stage. So let's hand out a little hardware, shall we? Not really hardware. We're not going to make like any plaques and ship these to One Arrowhead Drive. That'd be very funny if we did. Like go to like an awards maker, get one of those like Pee Wee football trophies, and like 580 Sports Talks first half offensive MVP 2024, and mail it to like whoever. What kind of response we would get?
The old participation trophy.
Yes, exactly.
Every single one would be returned to sender.
No kidding. What the hell is this? Be tossed in the trash before
Cops would show up at our front door. Why are you shipping things to the Kansas City Chiefs?
My wife looking at the bank statement. Why did you spend money on this? What were you thinking? Anyhow, 8 games down. They're all in the win column. 9 weeks in, 9 to go. Let's hand out some Chiefs hardware for the first half. First things first, offensive MVP. Brendan, who is your Chiefs offensive MVP of the first half?
This is a difficult one because there are, like, it would have been, if you extrapolated DeAndre Hopkins over the whole first part of the season, like if the Chiefs had traded for him in the offseason, I think he would probably be running away with it at this point. I really cannot emphasize to you guys enough how excited I am about seeing him in this offense long-term. Travis Kelce has not been the same. He started to get it going in his new version in the last couple of weeks, which is positive. Probably was going to be Rashee Rice through the first 4 games. I mean, he was looking awesome. So if I can give you the most, oh my God, you're so annoying, I can't believe you picked this guy, I'm going to give you big ol' number 65. I think the best offensive player on the Kansas City Chiefs this year has been Trey Smith. He is kicking ass, dude. Every single guy who runs into him is getting mauled. And this is sort of a proxy for the entire offensive line. Say we will about the left tackle spot in pass protection. The Chiefs have become a run-based team with Kareem Hunt, of all people, as the lead back because Isaiah Pacheco has been hurt most of the season.
A guy, by the way, we all thought had no juice.
No, you heard me say, like, yeah, okay, 100 yards. Sure, let's see next week. No, I mean, he's been doing really well. He's doing exactly what the Chiefs are asking of him. And I think with a worse offensive line, they would be struggling to move the ball with Kareem Hunt or Samaje Perine or Carson Steele or whoever they're handing the ball off to. But that group, the middle 3 specifically, but really the entire offensive line, true road grading performance all year. So I would give the nod to Trey Smith. I think he's been the best of the group. But if you wanted to tell me Joe Thuney, if you wanted to tell me Creed Humphrey, anyone on that interior, I would agree with that. I think the fact that that group is playing this well has allowed the Chiefs to change their identity in a way that, frankly, I don't think most of us thought was possible, let alone something they were willing to do.
I love that. I love a little off-the-board pick, giving some love to an offensive lineman. I think that you make a great point, and I think you're right, that it's the interior offensive line that has allowed the Chiefs to have, if not an explosive offense, we've talked about the difference all year long, that this Chiefs offense lacks the explosive playability, or has lacked it to date, largely of some of the other successful Chiefs teams in recent memory. But what they have been is relentlessly successful at keeping the chains moving, at staying, what they say, ahead of schedule, getting 5 or 4 yards on first down, converting on 3rd and short. And a big part of that is just the push that they're getting up front. I actually think Creed Humphreys had the better year of those 3 guys on the inside, but
totally fair.
It's not really anything that you can easily quantify. They don't necessarily have really reliable offensive line stats that show up in the box score. To be a contrarian, though, I'll give the nod to Kareem Hunt, because I do think, yes, maybe you can argue that Hunt's success is an argument that running backs are largely replaceable and that any replacement level running back could be doing what Hunt is doing behind that Chiefs offensive line. But I'm not entirely sure that it hasn't benefited the Chiefs to have found off the street, essentially, a veteran with knowledge of the offense and the ability to get what the Chiefs need him to get. And not only has he been successful between the 20s at keeping that running game success rate high, he has also been extremely effective in the red zone to the point where the Chiefs right now feel, and I'm not looking at the numbers or numbers since Kareem Hunt joined the team or numbers from a certain start point to an end point. They feel right now like a better red zone offense than they've been in a couple of years. And that's not just Kareem Hunt, but it started with Kareem Hunt. Being able to be the hammer in short yardage, it's sort of made it where I think Andy Reid is less predisposed to tinker and be, as we say, cute around the goal line. Why would you be when you can just hammer and chisel away with Kareem Hunt 3 times on 1st and goal from the 5, and eventually he's going to get you there. So I do think he's been valuable. And I don't know where the Chiefs would be if he hadn't come off the street and played the way that he has. I think they would be in a much different place offensively. And I don't think that ought to be taken for granted. How about defensive MVP of the first half for the Chiefs? I think there's a lot of different ways you can go with this one.
I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. And I think I am going to lean here with just... This is crazy to say because Chris Jones is still on this team. It's hard not to pick Chris Jones, man. I, again, want to go off the board and pick Trent McDuffie. I mean, that's not really off the board. He's a top 5 cornerback in the NFL right now. And he has been great so far this year. I just had his numbers up in front of me from Next Gen Stats over at the NFL's proprietary Next Gen Stats. Trent McDuffie this season has played 459 snaps. He has allowed a passer rating of 80.2. The average reception against Trent McDuffie is going for 8.7 yards. Nobody is catching a pass even beyond the sticks against Trent McDuffie so far this year. When he blitzes, it is always effective. He is one of the most willing tacklers in the NFL. I'm going to go with McDuffie just to avoid going with the extremely easy and obvious choice of going with Chris Jones, who's been great as well. But Trent McDuffie doesn't get enough attention because he doesn't intercept passes. I mean, yes. It's bizarre that he's been this good for 2.5 full seasons and has no interceptions. It really is crazy.
Right.
But you got to look beyond that and what he does and what he is willing to do as a corner. He plays corner like a linebacker, and I mean that in a very positive way because he's willing to be physical and tackle and use his hands. So I'm going to go with McDuffie there. That's probably not the right answer. It's probably number 95, but I want to give someone else some love.
Yeah, Chris Jones is just awesome week in and week out. And the stuff he's doing this year maybe hasn't shown up in the stat sheet as readily. Like, he's not going to get the 20 sacks. He's probably not going to win Defensive Player of the Year like he has long claimed to want to. But it won't be because he hasn't just beaten his man and won his matchup decisively every week. He's the guy that does that. And he is another, like, his prowess is what has made it possible for George Karlaftis to be as good as he has been with 13 quarterback hits.
Yeah, and to that point, so again, from Next Gen Stats, Karlaftis has 4 sacks so far in the year. Chris Jones has 3. Karlaftis has also played more snaps than Jones, and Jones has more pressures than Karlaftis does. That's like why we talk about the fact that pressures are more repeatable, sacks are more volatile. And yes, you want to be able to finish plays. I understand that. But getting after the quarterback and creating pressure, that is one of the most consistent things you look for when grading a defensive lineman, an edge rusher, a tackle, whatever. And Chris Jones is still racking up a ton of them.
All right, how about a most surprising or most improved, let's put it that way, a most improved Chief through the first half of this season? I'll go first with this one. I mean, it might be Karlaftis, you can argue, but I'm going to go with Shamari Connor because I think Shamari Connor's been really impactful, as good as we kind of hoped he would be in his first season as a starter. There was a lot of really positive buzz about him coming out of training camp, and he's got that slot corner role that sometimes goes unnoticed unless they're having a really bad game. But Connor's been pretty impactful. He has a touchdown. He has a sack. He has a pick. He has 3 passes broken up. He has 35 combined tackles. He's been really, really steady in that role. And he's had to fill some big shoes because that was a L'Jarius Sneed role there for a while. And I think Connor has handled that really admirably as a second-year player.
So if we're using most improved as the marker here, I'm going to go with Kareem Hunt, man. He stunk last year.
He did.
He was washed. He was broken down. He had no burst. He had no juice. And yet this year, he has been awesome. Do you know how many rushing yards he has in 5 games played?
He's over 400, isn't he?
414 in just 5 games played. Now, he's not picking up a ton of yardage, per carry, but it's enough. It's working. He has, in fact, negative yards above expectation this year. So, okay, based on the blocking, down and distance, play type, number of guys in the box, etc., and the NFL has tracking to do all of this, he's slightly below, minus 43, which over the course of 111 carries is really not that much. But he has done, again, exactly what the Chiefs have been asking of him. In terms of expected points added, okay, EPA, the last 2 years in Cleveland, everybody considered him to be pretty decent still in 2022. Negative 14.3 EPA, running the ball with Kareem Hunt for the Browns. Last year, when he was bad with Cleveland, universally considered bad with the Browns, negative 8.6 EPA. This year, plus 2.2. For a running back who is never going to have the explosive like he did at the very start of his career. He's not Jamal Charles level of explosive. He's going to get you somewhere between 3 and 6 yards every time he hangs onto the ball. To be adding that much is really impressive. I mean, that is up there with, in fact, that is right now, Dan, the second best EPA of his career.
Wow.
And it's the number one is not even his rookie season. His rookie season is the third best, and it's also in the negatives in that category. 2021 with the Browns, when he played only 8 games, that was his best year in terms of that particular advanced stat, which, again, is based on what kind of play you call, where on the field, etc. He's been great. Way better than I thought he'd be.
Yeah, I think he does deserve a lot of credit. Maybe that surgery that he had to have last year, I mean, look, hernias aren't much fun, and starting to feel like, man, that was really a much bigger factor in his downgrade in performance than we gave it credit for. How about a most disappointing Chief? Hate to end it on a negative. For me, it's Joshua Williams.
Yeah,
I think that I expect him to win the job over Jalen Watson. Watson balled out for 6 weeks, and now the last 2, like Joshua Williams has been a good NFL player. And he has not been a good player this year. That doesn't mean he can't still be a good player. Sometimes, like NFL players are like any other athlete. Sometimes you get in a funk. You don't play well. Mm-hmm. You get a little undisciplined. You lose track of your fundamentals, whatever it is. He's got to be better, I think, for the Chiefs in the second half of this season. Because the Buccaneers showed on Monday night that you can have some success in the passing game against the Chiefs if you just ignore whoever Trent McDuffie is on and go in the other direction. And Joshua Williams is going to have some opportunities to make plays. He's got to make the other teams pay. This
would have been Kelsey before the last certainly 2 weeks, maybe 3. But they have found a new role for him. And I think he still needs to get used to the fact that, hey, Travis, you can't do the surfboard moves anymore. That's just not your game at this point in your career. But
here he is on pace for 100 catches.
Again. Yeah. And granted, fewest yards per catch of his career, but it's working. It has been effective, so I wouldn't give it to him. I think Joshua Williams is a good answer because the expectation was, well, he'll just jump in and they'll be fine. But Watson was way better than expected, and so far Williams has been below, and that's tough. There's still plenty of time for him to play better, but results-based business. What have you done for me lately?
We'll take a quick break here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, storylines for the second half. I've got one storyline that I think is going to be fascinating to follow for the Chiefs in the second half. Brendan has one as well. We'll get to him next. Plus Tim Fitzgerald coming up in about 10 minutes or so on 580 Sports Talk on this Wednesday. 3:33 on 580 Sports Talk. We're just getting underway. Dan, Brendan with you this afternoon. Love hearing from our listeners in YouTube live chat, especially when our listeners are former interns. Hi, Trenton, watching us on YouTube this afternoon.
Trenton.
Our summer intern says Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco are going to win the Chiefs games in January with good old-fashioned power run football.
Real ball.
Yes. Real January football, the way it used to be.
I had a friend ask me just Monday if I thought running the ball was coming back. Like, will we get back to the way it used to be running the ball? I said, well, I don't think it's going to be like, handing the ball to Jim Brown 50 times a game anymore.
We're not bringing back the split backs.
If opposing teams are going to play with undersized tackles, which is in vogue because Aaron Donald's the best undersized tackle ever, and everyone tried to recreate that, and small linebackers and box safeties and stuff, hell yeah, go draft 3 linemen every year and just run through a you-know-who's face all the time. And it's working. Like, you're doing that with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but it's such a smart approach, and they've got the pieces to do it.
Yeah, especially the Chiefs do. And then the fail-safe is you have the best quarterback maybe ever.
Yep.
If you get to third and long.
In terms of talent, for sure.
One storyline I'll be fascinated to follow for the Chiefs in the second half. And I'm not saying we're going to get there. They got the Broncos this Sunday. Then they go to Buffalo the Sunday after. That's going to be a hard game.
Yep.
Very possible that the Chiefs lose one of the next two. I mean, the Broncos, they got pantsed by Baltimore, but they've still played really good defense throughout the year. Denver got them in Denver last year, so the losing streak is over. It's not an impossibility. Unlikely, I would say, but it's very possible the Chiefs' season opening winning streak comes to an end the next 2 weeks. What if it doesn't?
Yeah.
What if they're looking at 14-0 with Houston coming to town on December 21st? Because I kind of think if they get by Buffalo, they're going to be 14-0 with Houston coming to town.
There's a good chance of it.
And then what do you do? Like, how do you play it out? Because, again, this season is about pursuing history, right? Like, 17-0 would be history.
For what it's worth, I think one thing the Chiefs need to avoid is the look ahead in this weekend's game because, Broncos defense is good.
Yes.
Like that. I would not mess around with Vance Joseph because his defense is awesome.
And you don't want to lose the turnover battle to a Denver team that is built explicitly to not turn the ball over. Like, Bo Nix is not going to put the ball at risk.
No.
So they're not going to turn it over unless you rip it out of their hands. You don't want to be -2 in turnovers to this team.
My storyline for you, I'm going to make a prediction with mine. DeAndre Hopkins is making the Pro Bowl.
Love that.
He is going to put up such good numbers in the next 5 to 6 weeks that he's going to get voted into the Pro Bowl.
Entirely possible.
In half a season with the Chiefs.
Yeah, he's already. I mean, the yards per catch are the same, 11.5. But yeah, 6 games with Tennessee, 15 for 173 and 1 touchdown. Awesome. 2 games with the Chiefs, 10 for 115 and 2 touchdowns. Yeah,
he's been great.
Completely different guy. Tim Fitzgerald joins us next for the Wildcat Wrap-up here on 580 Sports Talk. Joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline an hour earlier than usual today, Tim Fitzgerald of GoPowerCat.com for the Wildcat Wrap-up. Joins us every Wednesday on the show to talk all things K-State. You can check out him and his outstanding staff's work at GoPowerCat.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Fitz, the warning signs were there. We talked about it last week. You said K-State looked like a tired football team by the Kansas game, and it was understandable given their travel schedule, given the demands of the previous 2 weeks and the demands, in fact, of the Kansas game. You wondered if they could push through it to get through the Houston game. Obviously, it turns out they did not. Do you look at the Houston game long-term as a blip, or do you look at it as maybe a canary in the coal mine that maybe things are trending in a bad direction for the final 3 weeks after the bye?
Yeah, it's a great question. And honestly, I don't know. We're going to have to see how this team emerges from this off week. And they've got back-to-back home games against pretty good teams in Arizona State and Cincinnati before they go to Iowa State. It could be. I mean, maybe people have solved this offense and there's no solutions on the offensive side of the ball to answer. If that's the case, then they've got some issues. But the fact that they didn't respond to some of the things Houston was doing very well, and the players never looked like they were playing with much emotion in this game. And honestly, they made some really crappy coaching decisions in this game that set their team up for defeat. And so I just thought it was an all-around bad effort by Kansas State football, not just the players.
It's been 3 weeks since K-State's been able to run the ball consistently, Fitz. Why is that?
People are stacking the middle. I mean, most of the damage the K-State running game was inflicting was between the guards with, DJ Giddens and even Dylan Edwards. But now they've stacked the middle of the defense, and it's like the Rubik's Cube that has no solution, apparently, for K-State. They finally ran the ball against Kansas by getting DJ Giddens off tackle. They tried it a little bit in Houston, but the rainy conditions seemed to impact them in footing more than it did Houston. And this is another theme that keeps happening to Kansas State. Poor conditions seem to impact them more than opponents, and I'm absolutely baffled as to why.
Something that I am baffled by, Fitz, I've been saying all season long, man, when K-State pulls the trigger on Avery Johnson as a running threat, that's when this offense really opens up. I've been saying when since week 1. There are 3 games left. Why is it an if? Why are we at a point where now we're wondering if Kansas State is going to use the obviously manifest gifts of Avery Johnson as a runner, which they were more than happy to use last year and used to great effect last year as a change of pace, but now seemingly don't want to unleash this year?
It's a fear of losing him because he is clearly their top quarterback. And it's almost as if they're saying, we're willing to lose a game with him so we don't lose him and lose a game because we don't have him. Makes no sense to me, but that almost seems like what they're saying. But also, in fairness, he was dinged at Colorado. They held him back from West Virginia running the ball at all. He came into Kansas. We were under the impression that he was healthier, and apparently he wasn't that much healthier. And then he hardly ran the ball. And again, when he did, he didn't look like he had very sound footing. They just didn't use him much at Houston. So hopefully after an off week, and some more healing, that they'll be able to run him these last 3 games. Because you're right, he's not the same quarterback if he doesn't run. It's like you've got this great recipe for chocolate cake, but what if we made it without the chocolate? It just doesn't make any sense here. What are you doing? You've got this incredibly athletic quarterback. What if we didn't let him be an athlete? Wouldn't that be incredible? Look, you got to let him be him. If he's dinged up, I get it. I mean, you got to be careful with that. But I think any of us who've seen him run in the past knows that he's not running with the same type of focus and speed that he has in the past. He did it for a while there in the middle of the season. Certainly at Colorado, he did it some. But now that just seems to be gone, and he's back to being an okay quarterback. That's more of a passer than a runner, and that's not what anyone thought they were getting in Avery Johnson.
We're chatting with Tim Fitzgerald of GoPowerCat.com. It's our Wildcat Wrap-up here on 580 Sports Talk via the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. Go find all of Fitz's work at GoPowerCat.com and follow him on Twitter at LifeOfFitz. Fitz, where's your take, generally speaking, on the play calling? Because I'm in agreement with you on the usage of Avery Johnson. I think we all are. But generally speaking, I saw a whole lot of criticism for Connor Riley this past weekend on social media during the Houston game. Where do you stand? What would your assessment be of the play calling so far throughout this year?
Well, if you look at the stats, it hasn't been awful. I mean, they're in the upper half offensively in this conference, if not the upper fourth in some key categories. But I think there's a kind of a learning curve here with how to set things up and take advantage of opportunities. Now, let me use another analogy. Some people play blackjack and just kind of play by the rules. That's me. I kind of play by the rules, and it kind of cuts down my chances of losing, but I'm still not ahead of the game. And some people count cards, and that's what the great play callers do. They know exactly that the ace has a better chance of working or popping up this time because they've been monitoring everything that's happened on the table. And that's what we saw Willie Fritz do. And they really took advantage of K-State with their limited passing game because they used it at the correct times. They set everything up, and they set K-State up perfectly. I don't feel like there was much response from the offense in terms of trying to build upon anything. It was just one play at a time. What do we got to do now? What do we got to do now? But I still can't get over that you've got a 2-score lead in the fourth quarter, and you put your quarterback in a position where he could throw the ball. And it was an RPO. He could have ran the ball or handed it off, but he threw it in his own territory, and exactly what Houston wanted to happen happened. They got the turnover, and if that play doesn't happen, they don't win. Period. End of story. But I still don't think that was the worst coaching decision of the game. The worst one was trotting a field goal kicker on to kick a career-long 53-yard field goal on a grass surface in a steady rain. It absolutely was asinine. Oh, and the special teams, the long snapper, was having issues. Well, what happened, it was exactly what was going to happen. They misconnected. So I can't wrap my mind around that decision instead of trying to pick up a first down and get to the end zone, because we keep hearing you can't win by kicking field goals on the road. Well, you can't win by kicking 53-yard field goals in the rain and bad footing with special teams issues on the road, period.
With the BYU Cougars still pacing the pack, with the same situation facing K-State and Iowa State, since the Cyclones also lost this past weekend, and now with Colorado breathing down their necks as well, as we stand today on Wednesday, November 6th, do you think K-State makes it to Arlington?
Nah, the odds are against them. I mean, I think Colorado should win out. They've got, some games or a game at least, Kansas in Boulder. They go to Lubbock. They've got Utah and Oklahoma State. Come on. I mean, those are supposed to be tough games, and now they're going to be easy games for Colorado. So I'll be very surprised if they lose. But I got to say this. I think if the championship game is Colorado and BYU, nobody's going to be happier than ESPN. I mean, they get the two kind of biggest brands right now in the conference to decide who goes to the playoff. So, yeah, they need some help. But the other side of that is this conference is nuts. And just as Kansas State shouldn't have lost at Houston, maybe we see Colorado lose somewhere along the way. And if that happens, K-State's back in control of its own destiny. They just need to win out to get to Arlington.
Tim Fitzgerald, GoPowerCat.com, joining us for the Wildcat Wrap-up here on 580 Sports Talk, as he does every Wednesday. Fitz, let's pivot to hoops. K-State 1-0 with a win over New Orleans last night. Slow start, but once it got cooking, it really got cooking for K-State on the offensive side of the ball. What to you was most impressive about the season debut?
Well, they had a more complete roster. They still don't have a chore. He was back, but he's been tending to family matters and had just gotten back in, so he didn't play. They're going to add another really valuable frontline piece to what they put on the floor. The depth and the shooting ability of this team is vastly enhanced from a year ago. And we saw it in this game. They got off to a slow start, but David Gasson got going. They have enough answers now. They only had 3 or 4 answers last year, and if all those guys didn't play well or someone didn't have a great night, they couldn't win. But now they've got good 8 or 9 guys that can step up and score 20 points. And if they stay healthy, I think this is going to be a pretty good K-State team. But also, let's be honest about this. They don't have many tests in the non-conference. This isn't a huge, challenging non-conference schedule. I think Coach Tang wants to make sure they get their feet under them before Big 12 play. And now with 20 games in conference, it kind of lessens the need to go play a bunch of non-conference games. You're going to get enough challenge out of a lot of those games.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. This is not on its face an inspiring non-conference schedule. There aren't a lot of big games or marquee opponents. Like last year, Villanova didn't end up being very good. That was a big deal, Villanova coming to Bramlage Coliseum. You don't have that this year really on the schedule. But do you feel like that might be beneficial for a team that will have an opportunity to discover its rotations, discover its identity, kind of figure out who it is and how they want to play along the way against teams of New Orleans' caliber?
Yeah, I think it'll help in some ways, but I also think when they dive into Big 12 play, there's going to be some shock value. As they're going to have to acclimate pretty quickly to a much more tougher environment. So, they're gonna rack up some wins, and the whole game is about getting into the tournament. And now with 20 Big 12 games in a really tough conference, I mean, you look around the conference, and there's more really good teams than not. And I think you're going to get enough strength of schedule and enough, quad one wins and all that other nonsense that goes into building an NCAA tournament resume. You don't need to do a ton of work outside of the conference now. And I think that's kind of sad. And I'm with Jerome Tang. I think playing 20 games is probably too much. They need to go back to 18 and just kind of lock in here on trying to get another challenge series or 2 going so that scheduling quality games is much easier.
Fitz, question about David Gasson after that performance last night. Were you, in on conversations about him turning into Hakeem Olajuwon during the offseason? Where did that come from?
Yeah, it's there. And he played incredibly active. You know what? And I think part of it, too, is he's got some dudes that he's got to compete with now to play. And I think everyone knows if you're not playing well, someone else is going to come in and take your minutes. He was greatly inspired. And I'm glad that was the question instead of the question being, what's the deal with the N at the start of his name? Because I have no idea. I have no clue on that one. I couldn't answer that.
Listen, as someone with a unique ethnic name, I am in no position to make fun of anyone else's last name spelling.
The silent...
That's why I call you Brandon Dawson. I call you Dawson.
The silent N is for Naismith Trophy, which is what he's going to win if he has 21 and 15 every night.
Yeah, 21 and 15. I might if I had a 21 and 15 night on my first game of the season, I might retire and say I averaged 21 and 15 my senior year.
I respect that. Absolutely.
Those would look really nice on the college basketball reference page at the end of your career. No question about it. Tim Fitzgerald is a double-double every time he joins us here on 580 Sports Talk. It's the Wildcat Wrap-up. We do it every Wednesday on the Floating Place Wine Spirits Hotline. Read Fitz and his outstanding staff at gopowercat.com. Become a VIP today at the 24/7 Sports Network. And, of course, check Fitz out on Twitter at Life of Fitz. It's always a joy, Fitz. We'll talk to you next week.
You bet, boys. New PowerCat podcast drops at midnight.
Check that out for sure. That is Tim Fitzgerald. We'll step aside, come back and wrap up this first hour of 580 Sports Talk after this. One got to go on 580 Sports Talk to wrap up this 3 o'clock hour. Brendan, you got one for us?
All right. One's got to go. The team that stylistically, vibes-wise, all things considered, you least want to see in the playoff from the Big 12. BYU, Iowa State, K-State, Colorado.
Team that I least want to see in the playoff?
I don't want to watch them.
Iowa State.
Like Houston going to the Final Four. You know they're great, but I don't really want to watch it.
Yeah, and I understand what you're saying. I don't like watching Iowa State play football. Iowa State is Big 12 Iowa, man. There is a brand of football they play in that state. It is running the football and playing great defense, and it is successful. It has been very successful for Iowa State this year. I just don't find it particularly enervating. K-State, they've got playmakers. They can hit some shot plays, make some explosive plays. Colorado absolutely can. They have the best player in the country, Travis Hunter. BYU's pretty similar stylistically to Iowa State too. I guess aesthetically, I just enjoy Jake Ratzlaff more than I enjoy Rocco Becht. So yeah, Iowa State, I could take or leave the way they play. Obviously it's successful. I'm not tipping my cap, but I'd rather watch those other teams.
I'd probably give all the same reasoning and just flip my answer. I'd probably say BYU, and I like Rocco Becht. I like the way he plays. I like the fact that he is pretty buttoned up, but occasionally you get true Pac-12 after dark. You get Bradley Van Pelt vibes from him every once in a while. Wow, he is a wild boy. And I kind of like that. Just enough of that to really get the blood pumping.
Coming up in the 4 o'clock hour, we got midseason superlatives for the NFL. We'll talk K-State hoops and another round of What Is Wrong With You on 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk, hour number 2 on a hump day afternoon. Dan Lucero, Brendan Dworzinski kicking it with you until 6 o'clock tonight. So glad you're with us on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and on our video channels. Catch us on YouTube. The channel name is 580 Sports Talk. We've added a subscriber each of the first 2 days of this week. Maybe we'll add a new one today. Maybe that'll be you, the one listening to this. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. You can also find us on Facebook at WIBW News. However you consume the program, thanks for doing so. We really appreciate you being with us, hanging out with us on this Wednesday. Top City Metal Supply text line is open. You can shoot us a text, 785-272-9429. From construction sites to renovations, from the farm to the garage, Top City Metal Supply understands the value of precision and cost efficiency. No more wasted materials, no more wasted money, just metal cut to the exact size you need. Top City Metal Supply, located on South Topeka Boulevard, just north of Forbes Field.
I was just out there the other day, just passed by him.
Is that right?
Yeah, I don't get down to that part of the boulevard all that often, but I was excited to see our pals over there.
I typically don't either, unless I'm going out to Shawnee Heights. I'll take the boulevard down to 45th, and I'll turn and head out to Tecumseh that way. I did play Forbes Field, the golf course, this summer.
Nice.
For the first time.
Yeah.
Nice little 9-hole course.
I always enjoyed.
I played like crap, but it was a nice little course.
When I lived in Lawrence, I always really enjoyed games at Shawnee Heights. Just drive. That was always my favorite one because long drive there, very short drive home.
You could just take 45th all the way, right?
Yeah, 45th down to 40. Yeah. Oh yeah, no, love that drive past Stoll. Yeah, that's the good days. Even better would be sub-state basketball at Perry Lecompton. I'm 15 minutes from home. This is great.
Yeah, exactly.
This is wonderful. I remember the last time we did one of those. I was there with our pal Larry Latimer. And he said, man, this is nice for you. I got to drive all the way back across town. You're right next door to your house. I said, yeah, this is great. Thank you, Perry, for being located halfway between Lawrence and Topeka.
And for the hosting Substate that one year that we got to cover. Anyhow, we've got lots of great stuff still to come in the final 2 hours of this program. We're going to talk a little K-State hoops. I was fairly impressed with how they came out against New Orleans. Not how they literally came out in the sense that they weren't real good early in the game and went behind by double digits. That's not what you want against a Privateers team that won 10 games last year. But once it clicked, it really clicked for K-State, and they ended up cruising to victory at the end of the night. We'll discuss some K-State hoops a little bit later on. Also, coming up at the 5 o'clock hour, we're going to talk some Royals baseball. The hot stove, I wouldn't say it's heating up. I would say that it's on, like, if you have a range at home and you have the dials like 1 through 9, I would say that the hot stove is on like a 1.
It's simmering.
It's beginning to simmer. You see the big move today? The Angels signed your boy Kyle Hendricks.
Wow. Well, good for Kyle Hendricks. Good for Kyle So I'm going to be honest with you. I have since 10:30 last night not opened Twitter. I am not making a commentary about anything relating to the election. I just know that there are a lot of opinions, and to be frank with you, and I love you guys, not you, but generally speaking, I don't want to read any of them. I don't want your good, your bad, your ugly opinions, and I have stayed off of Twitter for going on like 18 hours, which I have just today realized, like, wow, I have an obsession. I have a problem. I needed this. This is like when I used to eat fast food for lunch every day, but then every 2 months I'd have to take a week where I made food at home because my body started to like reject all my organs. Yeah, this is the same thing. Like, okay, this is me making peanut butter and jelly.
A detox. Like I'm trying to detox like via Blue Sky. Blue Sky is like my nicotine patch.
You're zen.
Yeah, like I need to read posts, but Twitter is just sludge.
Yeah.
Right. It's been nothing but sludge since 9:30 p.m. roughly last night. And yeah, I don't need to fill my brain with sludge intentionally. I don't need that. So no, I'm right there with you. However, I do follow MLB trade rumors on Blue Sky.
Yes, I do as well.
Yeah, I saw that Kyle Hendricks is now a Los Angeles Angel.
Well, good for him.
And I know that's one of your guys.
He's such a good dude. He was, what were we calling him? I mean, he was the last man standing. He was the last member of the 2016 World Series team.
Yeah.
And all-time great dude, really good pitcher at his peak. Joe Madden, you are so lucky that we ended up winning in 10 innings because, my God, you botched that decision in Game 7 in 2016. But beside the point, I will root for him wherever he goes. He got his 10 years of service time this past season.
Yeah. One year
deal for him.
1 year deal with the Angels. He is turbo cooked. That's the other thing, which is why it's so funny that the Angels were like, yes, let's jump the line and give a 1 year deal to this guy.
I know we'll get to hot stove later.
We will. And we'll talk Royals. And we'll talk in the context of the Royals.
Yeah, good team.
Interesting, some bubbling rumors about the Royals and their desire to add a leadoff bat.
A team with a front office that has a clue.
A team with a future.
It's just so maddening. Teams in any sport that always make the same mistakes over and over. Like, there are examples in football. For example, the Chicago Bears have never had a good quarterback. Like, Jim McMahon is the best quarterback in the Super Bowl era, and Jim McMahon is like the 150th best quarterback of all time. Like,
wow, this is Jay Cutler and Kyle Orton erasure.
Well,
okay, go off.
Jay Cutler is actually the best of all time, but y'all ain't ready for that discussion. Anyway, like, they've never had a legitimate, undeniably, wow, he's good quarterback. They've tried. They've just all busted. Trubisky and they all just sucked. But at least they've tried. The Angels, for, I don't know, since what, like the third season of Jared Weaver, has been like, let's just like throw a bunch of money at dudes who are more washed than my acid wash jeans and throw them in the rotation. I'm sure it's fine. Let's get a bunch of nobodies. Like, why are you trading Griffin Canning? He's one of the few guys you have who's not like a AA player.
Because Jorge Soler will hit some home runs.
Sick. I can't wait to see them lose in a game where Mike Trout goes 4 for 4 with 2 home runs and 2 doubles, and they lose 8-3. Awesome. Sick.
Yeah.
What a dumb team.
Yeah. Like the Angels, there are certain franchises that are just utterly and completely and irreparably unserious as long as their current ownership group is in charge. The Pirates are one of those. The Rockies are one of those. The White Sox are absolutely one of those. The Athletics, obviously. The Angels don't get enough attention because they're the second team in their own market, but they are absolutely hopeless as long as Artie Moreno's in charge.
And I get that they're always going to be second banana to the Dodgers, but like the Angels have an awesome history of logos and stuff. They have a cool stadium. They've got one of the greatest players to ever play the sport still on the team.
For a while there, they had 2 of them.
Who could, at any point in his career, said, I want to play for a team that doesn't suck eggs, and left. But no, he is committed to being there. Like, they should have attention for being good. Instead, no one cares because they're butt. And let's save this for like the last week of May when nothing's going on. What team in pro sports in America has been the most unserious the longest?
Okay, that's a great question. Because I think the answer was the Commanders until Dan Snyder sold the team.
Yeah.
I think it was the Washington Commanders there for a long time. I
mean, the Browns have to be up there.
Yes, the Browns are, well.
They finally got one good thing and ruined it immediately.
Yeah, they're pretty unserious. Man, that's such a good question.
Angels are up there, but at least they played for a World Series. They won a World Series.
The Seattle Mariners are pretty unserious.
Yeah.
They've had.
Remember when Lou Piniella blamed 9/11 for them choking to the Yankees in 2001?
I sure do.
Well, our guys were distracted by 9/11. You were in Seattle.
The Mariners, we have some of the coolest players in the history of baseball that play for our team. Ichiro, Randy Johnson, Ken Griffey Jr. Not just the coolest players, some of the best, some of the all-time greats of the game.
Ascending A-Rod.
How many World Series have you been to? File not found. 404.
Yeah, they're on the list. Sorry, honey. My wife's a Mariners fan, but yeah, oof.
So
yeah, let's save that one.
Yeah, we're gonna file that one away for later on because we do have some stuff to get to here in the 4:00 hour, including another round of What Is Wrong With You. And as promised, it is the midway point of the NFL season. Tomorrow night starts week number 10. That means we have played 9 weeks. There are 9 weeks remaining. Not every team has played 9 games. Some have played 8, including the Chiefs, but we're at the midway point for all intents and purposes. In the first hour, we gave you some superlatives for the Chiefs, offensive and defensive MVPs, best surprise player, most disappointing player. Now we're going to broaden the scope and talk National Football League. But before we do that, I have to acknowledge that Vance entered the Washington Wizards as an answer to that question.
Great
and I think he's got the right answer.
Great answer.
They haven't won 50 games in my life. In an 82-game season, they have not had a 50-win season in my life. And I am 38 years old.
Have they done it ever, period?
Yeah. They won an NBA championship, 78? It was that weird late 70s. Everybody was on cocaine. The NBA just traded the championship between strange championship teams there for a while. Like the Warriors won one, and the Sonics won in 79. I think the Bullets won in 78.
So they won 60 one year, in fact. 54.
Yeah, man, they had Wes Unseld.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So they actually, funny enough, Dan, the year they won the NBA Finals, they won 44 games.
That is funny.
They won 44 and 38.
Wes Unseld, though. Great player. All-timer.
Finals MVP.
NBA 75. Anyway, thank you, Vance, for landing on the right answer. Anyhow, NFL midseason superlatives. Let's start with MVP, and let's come at it from this direction. Make an argument for somebody who is not Lamar Jackson for NFL first half MVP, because I'm not sure I can. I think that's how good Lamar Jackson has been, even though his team has 3 losses. The raw numbers and the metrics all agree that he's just been out of this world as a passer and a runner this year. And adding Derrick Henry, one of the great running backs of his era, to that roster has just made Jackson even more viable running threat, because now if they play read option stuff, pick your poison.
Yeah, there's 3 guys that come to mind for me. And the one I would pick is Josh Allen. And I still think the reason you go with Allen, and I am admittedly biased because that was who I picked during our preseason preview, who's going to win MVP. I went with Josh Allen. They have improved their offense by adding Amari Cooper. That is a big deal. James Cook is legit. James Cook's one of the best running backs in the NFL. He is awesome. Khalil Shakir has taken the step up they wanted. The tight ends are okay. And then Keon Coleman has been a lot better than a lot of draft folks thought he would be immediately in his first season, his rookie campaign. That being said, I still am of the belief that no contending team in the NFL relies on its quarterback to be great all the time more than Buffalo on Josh Allen. And generally speaking, he has been. They keep winning. They are playing really good football. He has been really, really good. I understand Lamar is going to get the attention and should and deserves it. And the eye test, the trading card numbers, the advanced numbers all favor Lamar right now. I think Josh Allen's playing some incredible football, though. He's gotten so accurate. He is tough. They use him as a much more effective runner. I think Joe Brady has really found a way to maximize his running ability. They use it more than... I keep wanting to call him another failed backup quarterback. Ken Dorsey. I keep wanting to call him Tim Rattay. Then Ken Dorsey.
Wow, we're really remembering some guys.
I don't know why Tim Rattay has always stuck out to me.
Bills offensive coordinator Jim Druckenmiller.
I wish. But they didn't run Allen pretty much at all with Ken Dorsey. Prior to that, when Dable was there, just go run into a brick wall over and over again. That's fine. Who cares? Whatever. Which, funny enough, that's also what the Giants do to find success with Daniel Jones. The difference is Allen is good, Jones is bad. They have found a happy medium there, and I just think he is the creator of so much for that offense. The other 2 I would think of that would be in my not Lamar category. One, Jared Goff. That whole team is preposterous right now.
He doesn't throw incomplete passes anymore, which is amazing.
It's insane. Also, you already mentioned him. Derrick Henry's going to get 2,000 yards. If he stays healthy, he very legitimately can get to 2,000 yards.
Where's he at right now? I'm looking at the league leaders. He got 1052.
It's within reach.
1052 in 9 games, 8 games to play. Yeah.
Remember when the Cowboys didn't want to sign him? They were the team that needed a running back more than any other team in the NFL, and they said, no, we don't want him.
Derrick Henry had over 1,000 carries in his high school career.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think it was more than 2,000 carries in his high school career.
Yeah, and by the way, that play caller needs jail. Dog. He's 17. You're giving him 1,000 carries. Get out of here.
Derrick Henry's high school stats. You can go to Max Preps and still find Derrick Henry at Yulee, Florida. And you can find his stats. In his career, he carried the ball in high school 1,397 times.
That's not
1,397. Nice. He has carried the ball 2,198 times in 9 NFL seasons.
By the way, if you've ever seen his high school mixtape, it is as funny as you'd think.
Oh, man among boys.
My favorite is probably still Jadeveon Clowney. Because he played running back in high school along with defensive end. Some like 5'11", 180-pound left tackle trying to block Jadeveon Clowney is hilarious. And then that same player playing defense trying to tackle him, equally hilarious.
Derrick Henry's senior year at Yulee High School in Florida, 462 carries for 4,261 yards and 55 touchdowns. What if we made the whole plane out of the black box?
I mean, if the Ravens had 11 Derrick Henrys, they'd be at least 500.
Yeah,
I'm pretty certain.
He's an unbelievable football player. No, I think those are compelling cases. Yeah. I still think it's Lamar, but those are compelling cases. How about defensive player of the year? I think there's some different directions you can go with defensive player of the year this year.
Yeah, there really are. Crosby was my pick at the start of the year. I am tempted to go. I'd love for my guy Xavier McKinney to get it. I don't think he will.
League leader with 6 interceptions, him and Kirby Joseph.
Yeah. And one of them is not an extremely dirty player. I am going to go with, do you know who has the shortest odds right now, by the way?
I don't, actually. Is it TJ Watt?
It is TJ Watt, and it's TJ Watt by a ton. At a certain book, I won't tell you which one, but there are fans who duel there. He's minus 135. Second shortest odds at that book right now, plus 1,000, Chris Jones.
Well, I mean, he is awesome. He's got, he got 6.5 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, which is tied for the league lead.
Crazy.
10 tackles for a loss. Yeah, I would probably lean in his direction also because his team is good. Like Trey Hendrickson's having a great year, too. Yeah. He leads the league with 11 sacks. But he's the best player in a crappy defense.
Other guy I would give a nod to here, who would be my dark horse pick at this point, Will Anderson. He is balling out for Houston.
Yeah. I was going to say Dexter Lawrence.
That's a good one. Dexter Lawrence has been really, really
good.
Second
in the league with 9 sacks for the Giants.
He is the closest allegory around the rest of the league to prime Chris Jones.
Is it impossible for a defensive back to win defensive player of the year anymore? Is it just all edge guys?
I mean, it happened 5 years ago.
Forever. Who was it?
Stephon Gilmore, 2019.
Right. Man, I didn't realize it had been that recently.
Diggs didn't win it, did he?
Oh, he might have.
I'm going to pull up the list right here of the most recent winners.
No, he did not.
He did not. That was 21.
Yeah,
that 22.
That was his first team All-Pro year was 21. We had the 11 picks.
Yeah, TJ Watt won it that year. Who's better, TJ or JJ?
Man, peak JJ. Career, though, if TJ is able to avoid some of the injuries, and he hasn't, TJ's dealt with injuries too, but we might be looking back and say TJ had the better career, but there's no doubt JJ had the better peak.
I agree with that. I think the thing that helps Watt, too, is you could play him at any position. You could play him at end, you could play him wide 9, you can play him on the interior, you could use him in a 3-4 or a 4-3. I think, TJ Watt's incredible. He's going to go to the Hall of Fame one way or the other.
You could also play JJ Watt at tight end.
You could. TJ Watt is a 4-3 edge rusher, which is fine because he's the best one in the NFL, but he's more got one position. So yeah, Willie Anderson would be my dark horse.
How about coach of the year through 9 weeks in the NFL? Who would get your coach of the year vote? It's funny how this always goes to the team. Coach of the year is generally a proxy for, I thought this team would be bad. They're not. Ergo, this coach gets coach of the year. And I guess in that regard, it would probably be Kevin O'Connell of the Minnesota Vikings, who I think most people expected to not be 6-2 and in the mix for a playoff spot in the NFC.
I think there's an even more extreme case than that.
Who would that be?
The current leader in the clubhouse, Dan Quinn, man. I don't think Dan Quinn is a mastermind, as a head coach. Is he a good defensive coordinator? Yes. Is he probably a better head coach than he gets credit for? Yeah, he won a lot of games in Atlanta. I don't think he's a bad head coach. I think he's a bad roster.
28-3 stained everybody.
Yes. And
involved with that. And
deservedly.
Deservedly, yeah.
But I think you can go Quinn. I think if you wanted another first-year head coach, the Chargers keep winning.
Yes, they do.
They're not a Super Bowl contender, but they keep winning.
And they have one of the best defenses in football.
Yeah.
Jesse Minter's going to be a head coach, maybe not next year, but soon.
Yeah, I would not be surprised. He'll get interviews. Yeah. He will absolutely get interviews. But if they keep playing that well defensively, he's going to end up in a Ben Johnson situation, the offensive coordinator for the Lions, where he could have had any job he wanted. But he said, you know what? I don't like this crop. I'm going to go back to Detroit. I'm going to go crazy again and get my pick of the litter next year. If the Chargers defense is top 5 throughout the entirety of the season, Minter is going to be able to do the same thing. Because Harbaugh's not going to push him out the door. If you're a Charger fan, you've got to be terrified that Minter leaves and you go hire Wink Martindale. That is going to terrify you.
Michigan fans would drive Wink Martindale to the airport.
I have a friend, an internet friend, big Michigan fan. He's from Michigan. And a couple of weeks ago, during a Michigan game, one of their many disappointments this year, he tweeted something about, man, I really thought Wink Martindale was going to change. I really thought he'd come back to the college game after 20-something years and he would approach things differently. And I said to him, buddy,
that's never happened before.
You are a very smart football fan, but if you thought Wink Martindale, of all people, was going to change, I have a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you. He will always be the blitz man forever.
Yeah.
Always. He's more blitz boy than Jamal Adams. He's blitz all the time. And he stinks at it in college.
I can't imagine, I can't imagine a Michigan fan being too upset with what's happened to that team this year because they won the national championship last year.
Yep.
This is the hangover year. Somebody was going to have to eat it, and it was poor Sharon Moore. I hope he gets the year 2. He may not.
One other name in consideration, I probably wouldn't give it to him, but I think you have to consider it. Mike Tomlin. Everybody ragged on that Russell Wilson move, man, and they have gotten better since they swapped QBs.
They certainly have.
You know what? I might vote for Tomlin. I actually might.
Triple G in the YouTube comments throws out your guy, Matt LaFleur.
If the Packers won the division, I think he'd run away with it. Unfortunately, the Lions are a powerhouse.
Yeah, that's
they've won 3 games with Malik Willis playing a majority of the snaps.
What has been your most pleasant surprise of the first half of the NFL season? Let's do this real quick to wrap up.
It's got to be Jaden Daniels, right? I never root against draft picks unless they're bad guys. I said it many times in the show. I said it to Spencer, resident Commanders fan. I don't see it with Jaden Daniels. Maybe he's good. Maybe he gets good, but I don't see it, especially right away. And not only has he been good, he himself has been in the MVP conversation.
Yeah.
And frankly, the fact that Cliff Kingsbury is running an offense that's not just straight out of the 2009 Texas Tech playbook is a big change for them as well. So the fact that they are fun, not just competent, but fun, that's very pleasant. They're a fun watch. They're one of the most watchable teams in the league. Washington.
Yeah. I don't know that we've ever said that in our, maybe in my lifetime. They won that Mark Rippon Super Bowl champion team in 1991, man.
Rookie RG3.
You go back and you watch highlights of the 91 Washington football concern, and Mark Rippon is slanging it.
He's ripping it, you could say.
You could say that.
I would give it to rookie RG3 before his leg shattered.
Yeah, that was fun. That was a moment.
That was also very much you knew his leg was going to explode at some point.
I'll never forget where I was watching that playoff game against the Seahawks.
Good job, Mike.
Great job by Mike Shanahan.
What would yours be?
For me, probably the Steelers and what appears, it's only 2 games, but it appears to be a Russell Wilson resurgence at age 36. I'm going to have a soft spot for Russ always, but I think he's outperformed expectations so far in those 2 starts. A lot of people said, well, why are you benching Justin Fields? You're 4-2 with him as the starter. Why would you bench him? Well, I don't know. Maybe Mike Tomlin, who's won a lot of games, has gotten to see both of those quarterbacks in practice and knows which one is going to make his offense better. And maybe it's the one who wasn't as bad as we all thought after he got saddled for 2 straight years in Denver with one of the most incompetent head coaches in the history of the National Football League in Nathaniel Hackett. And number 2, a head coach that hated his guts in Sean Payton.
And people always like to joke about, Mike Tomlin, how did he keep Antonio Brown under wraps? How did he keep Le'Veon Bell happy? He's doing it again. George Pickens is a basket case, but you know the best way to keep George Pickens involved? Hey, go run straight and jump and catch this ball.
9 route.
What is the best throw that Russell Wilson has always made? 9 ball. The moon ball. Throw it into the stratosphere and back down to earth. Perfectly placed every time. Perfect way to keep a head case wide receiver engaged.
I know we have some Steelers fans listening to the program. We've heard from them on the Top Seed Mail Supply text line before. We've heard from them in the YouTube live chat. I want to know where they come down on Mike Tomlin. My dad is a Steelers fan and hates Mike Tomlin.
I don't get it.
I don't either.
I don't get it.
You never lose.
Your dad is a great guy. Very, very pleasant when I got to meet him at the wedding. I have to disagree with him on that. I think Mike Tomlin's a wizard.
It is my dad's most insane sports take, frankly, that he thinks Mike Tomlin is a bad coach. Here, for the 785 on the Top Emails Play text line, I'm a Steelers fan and I love him. How could you not? You're never bad. You're never a bad team as long as that guy's on the sideline.
More than half the league would fire their coach immediately if he was on the market.
Yes.
More than half.
100%.
I think he's a stud.
I do too.
Just get him a real quarterback.
I like him too. He's a likable guy. He's funny. I understand why players play hard for him.
This dude got a winning record with Kenny Pickett.
Duck Hodges. He survived a Duck Hodges season, and we're competitive with a guy named Duck.
Hey, look, Doug Hodges is a legend in his own right these days.
That's true. Dad, I love you. That's your worst take. Honest to goodness. We got to take a break here at 580 Sports Talk. We'll come back, play around on what is wrong with you next on 580 WIBW. It's What Is Wrong With You time on 580 Sports Talk. Two new stories competing to take down our current weekly champion. Our guy Vance in the YouTube live chat dubbed it Bogus Boston Botox. 38-year-old woman facing federal charges of injecting clients with counterfeit Botox and fillers that she bought off AliExpress. $50 fake Botox from the same website you can get a fake, like, Mario Lemieux Pittsburgh Penguins jersey. For the record, Botox actually costs $650 a vial. She was paying $50 a vial. So that's our current weekly champion. It's a pretty good story. Brendan, how about you go first? You've got sex in the headline of this one, so I'm intrigued.
Yeah, we've got two people banging in public.
Okay.
Tisha Booth and Keisha Edern. Or I'm sorry, that's an M. Edom. So the women were on a road trip to reconcile their relationship when they exited I-85 in Livonia, Georgia last week. Following the duo's 7 p.m. pit stop, police received a report of indecent exposure at the Raceway gas station. Responding officers then located a white female and a black female, one on top of the other. Each had their pants pulled down, exposing their pelvic regions. They were found on a patch of grass between the Raceway and a McDonald's.
I guess their road trip to reconcile was successful?
Yeah, okay. This describes what they were doing. I really do not need all of this detail.
No, absolutely not.
They were having sex in public next to the McDonald's. That's what they were doing.
Hold on a minute. This says that woman is 49 years old.
If you told me she was 99,
if you told me she was 149.
Yeah, she looks like... You remember the scene in The Last Crusade when the Nazi touches the fake Holy Grail?
Yeah, the fake Grail, yeah.
That is what Ms. Booth looks like.
Oh, man.
The alleged tryst, cops say, occurred in broad daylight in the grass beside the street. Police recommended that if individuals were tempted to reconcile your relationship with your life partner, you should get a room or go home.
Jeez. Man, those two are living hard.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I've never thought, you know what would be hot? Having sex next to McDonald's. That sounds great. No! Oh, right next to the Raceway. Sweet. Let's get some Slim Jims and then get it on.
It smells like petrol and French fries. What an aphrodisiac.
Ultimate afterglow. Some roller taquitos. Come on. Grotesque.
Paul in the YouTube comments just posted the old "I'm loving it" jingle. I'm not gonna sing it, but it's really funny. Wow. Okay. That's your story.
Yep.
Mine is much shorter today. We have a story about some robbers and a ski mask and a gun, but in a different order than you might expect. We go to Oak Park. I think this is Oak Park, Illinois, perhaps.
Yeah, I know exactly where this is.
Cool. Okay.
I don't want to dox my in-laws, but I could walk to here from my in-laws' house.
4 men approached an Oak Park resident between 7 p.m. and 7:40 p.m. October 29th, and the men attempted to purchase a Nike ski mask. The resident declined. The men stole the ski mask while one of them displayed a firearm. The men left in a black SUV. The estimated loss is $40. First of all, a nice ski mask. $40 for a ski mask?
What the heck?
Second of all, typically when you commit a crime, you want to hide your face with the ski mask. You don't rob somebody to steal the ski mask. I wonder if they were robbing someone to steal the ski mask so that they could go do more robberies with the ski mask. A trial run, and you get part of the merchandise.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, that's a really pricey one.
$40 for a ski mask. I think I have a balaclava. I bought it Shields or something for much less. It's not Nike though.
No, I'm trying to figure out exactly how. Yeah, man, I've gone past the McDonald's this was near a zillion times.
This is close to home.
Legitimately, I think I could walk from my in-laws' house to where this happened.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Didn't do that on purpose. But yeah,
that's incredible.
Yeah. So they stole a ski mask. It's kind of funny to me. It's not as funny as a story our texter from the 785 refers to as the Great McReconciliation.
Oh my God. We've also got McLovin on YouTube.
Yep. We also have some that we cannot read back. We see them. We've chortled. We absolutely cannot read them back on the radio. That wins today. Does that beat bogus Boston Botox?
No. Man, you can't buy Botox on AliExpress, man.
Fake Botox.
It's like buying implants from DHgate. Like, you can't do that. There's no way this ends well.
It come back. You can't tell the difference from the ones you can buy at Fanatics.
Once again, art imitating or life imitating art. There's an episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia where they buy Botox-like injections online and they botch the implantation of it. And Dennis yells, "You put Mexican collagen in my eye?" This is that, but real life.
Faces look like they're melting like the wax figurine of that guy in the Liberty Mutual commercial.
Bogus. We got some real sickos on the What Is Wrong With You this week.
Bogus Boston Botox moves on What Is Wrong With You. Coming up next, we're going to pivot back to sports. Thank God. Talk K-State basketball next. .445 on 580 Sports Talk. Dan and Brendan with you. One more hour ago after this one, Bryce Cabeldue, KU offensive lineman, joined me earlier today. It's our KU player profile. We'll bring that to you in the next hour, along with some Royals talk. Hot stove season. We're going to be hot stoving it. Talk a little baseball coming up in a bit.
Sizzling.
K-State 89, New Orleans 65. The final score last night at Bramlage Coliseum. 6.5 minutes in, New Orleans led by 10. And Kansas State looked very reminiscent to last season, where they were playing a brand of basketball that we have described in a variety of different ways on this show. I found a more G-rated version of a way to describe the kind of basketball they were playing. It was that expose him kind of basketball, where not a lot of ball movement, a lot of one-on-one, a lot of ISO stuff, none of it really working. And New Orleans was red hot from the field. You knew they'd calm down a bit, and they certainly did. But then Kansas State started moving the ball. They got really good on offense. They shot 53% in the second half. They had 24 assists on 34 made baskets, 8 of them from Doug McDaniel in 23 minutes off the bench. And they committed only 9 turnovers. Why is that number significant, you ask? That is the fewest turnovers in a game for Kansas State since the Michigan State game in the Sweet 16 in 2023, March of 2023. They did not at any time last season have a game where they had single-digit turnovers, and they accomplished it in game 1 this year. That, to me, is the most impressive and most promising thing about this from a K-State perspective, that they can run stuff in the half court that makes sense, and guys are willing passers and good passers. It's not just that you're willing to pass. The pass has to be a good pass. Jerome Tang pointed that out in his post-game remarks. The passes that the shooters are getting, Brendan Housen, Max Jones, they're what you call in the pocket, right? Right in the shooting pocket. So you don't have to gather and then regather and set yourself to shoot. You can catch and gather in one motion. Those are the passes Doug McDaniel's throwing. That's what makes a great point guard. They didn't have anybody making those passes last year. If you had guys trying to make a pocket pass, end up in the third row of the student section.
It's amazing how some guys are just bad at passing. I mean, it seems like it'd be something that's so easy and simple. You know who was an awful passer for 3 years of his career at a different program? Ochai Agbaji. I love Ochai Agbaji. That dude sucked at passing until he was a senior. Then he figured it out. Dude couldn't throw a post entry. K-State had nothing but those dudes last year. You're right. I mean, any sort of tricky pass was just begging for a disaster. I think of the Cincinnati game. Oh my God. I mean, how many turnovers were there in that game? Every one of which felt like a backbreaker. Doug McDaniel's out there pulling off and one mixtape passes into the corner, driving to the basket. Think, geez, this is a completely different kind of player than K-State has had in recent memory. I mean, that's a different kind of player than Marquise Noel was. I mean, Marquise had had a bag, but different and different in a good way than what they've had previously. As long as he keeps his head on straight, he's going to be a major impact player, and it's going to open up so many things for the rest of this team.
K-State shot 34 3-pointers, made 13 of them. That's 38%. If you're going to shoot at a high volume, you better make it a high volume. Mm-hmm. And last night, K-State did. Brendan Housen made 4 of his 9. He shot the ball 10 times. 9 times it was behind the arc. I wouldn't be surprised if his ratio of 3-point attempts to total shot attempts is around 80 to 90% all year. Like, that's what he's here for. And that's fine. Like, you need floor spacers and you need dead-eye shooters, and Housen appears to be capable of giving you that. Max Jones, very impressive. That was the level of play that I think the K-State coaches are thinking he can give them all year. He was 7 of 10 from the floor, 4 of 5 from behind the arc for 19 points. David Gasson, we mentioned it earlier when we talked to Tim Fitzgerald. Typically, we talk to Fitz right now here on 580 Sports Talk. Mm-hmm. He had to join us an hour early today. So that's on hour number 1 of our podcast today, and a little earlier, about an hour ago, if you want to rewind on YouTube and catch Fitz. We talked about David Gasson with Fitz. David Gasson had 21 and 15 last night. I guess like Moses Malone numbers that David Gasson is putting up in 30 minutes. And here's the thing about Gasson that I don't think he's going to put up 21 and 15 every night. But I think in the transfer portal era, it's good to be able to have guys who have been with the program multiple years because they really give a damn about the program and the uniform and the tradition and all of the things that it represents. Like David Gasson is not, I mean, he transferred into K-State too. He didn't start there, but he's been there for 3 years now. He spent the balance of his career at Kansas State. He's not a mercenary. He cares.
I forgot that he was at Virginia Tech until last night. I was looking at his sports reference page for some of his career numbers, and I forgot he was at VT.
And in a game like that last night, you get off to a slow start. You get behind by double digits. You get punched in the mouth by a not very good team out of the gate. You need someone who cares. You need somebody who sparks you with energy and give a damn. David Gasson had 10 offensive rebounds last night. That's some serious give a damn from David Gasson. And I think that's what, if nothing else, he's going to bring game in and game out, is that energy, that ability to do things the right way. Certainly his size and his athleticism with his size is going to be an asset, but he cares and wants to win. And I think K-State fed off of that last night. So that was really cool to see for David, who by all accounts is also like a great kid and somebody that you want to see succeed. It was great that he had that moment.
Yeah, no, really cool for him. I thought he played really well. He was aggressive. He was willing to, mix up how he was impacting the game. He's, I think got a tendency to kind of get locked in on, I got to be a rebounder. I got to be a scorer. And I don't think he's good in that way. I think he needs to play fast and loose. And I thought he did that last night. K-State did what I was hoping it would do. And I mentioned this right before the game yesterday. Just go out and run your stuff. Don't worry about, we got to try out X rotation or Y group. Just go bludgeon them. And that's what they did after that cold start. And I am very appreciative of that. And you didn't need Coleman Hawkins to be great. He's not an elite scorer anyway, but you didn't need him to be great in that game. And he wasn't, but he'll get to that point.
Filled the stat sheet, 5 points, but 9 boards and 5 assists.
And it's different than with Kansas. And I'm sorry to draw a comparison between the two again, but we talked about KU, the preposterous depth on that team. I don't think this K-State roster is as talented as the KU roster this year, but I think you get the same sort of principle. You can have different guys with different skill sets be your focal point game to game. That's the beauty of having a player like Coleman Hawkins, is that even if he's not stuffing the stat sheet with points and with shooting percentage and all of that, he's kind of a chameleon as a big man. He can help you out in a lot of different ways with a lot of different players.
Yeah, he can be anything you need him to be. And it is super valuable to have a player like that. We're going to take a break here on 580 Sports Talk. Come back and wrap up the 4 o'clock hour of the program next. Wrapping up this 4 o'clock hour, 580 Sports Talk. Man, I love Pantera. I listened to a lot of really loud, like metal in high school, and I didn't take a lot of it with me as I grew up. But Pantera will always be one of my favorite bands. One of my absolute favorite bands.
Yeah, Pantera is
problematic
awesome.
To say the least. I do not co-sign many of the personal beliefs of lead singer Philip Anselmo, but no, big Pantera fan. R.I.P. Dimebag.
Oh yeah, or the great Dimebag Darrell.
Yes.
Don't necessarily agree with a lot of his personal beliefs, but he was great.
No, but yes, all-time guitar player. Congrats are in order to Washburn women's soccer. 2-0 winners over Emporia State this afternoon. They're the MIAA champs.
Awesome year. What a year for Coach Davey in that program. Played for a national title a year ago. They've got a real chance to do it again, man.
Yeah, they are hitting their stride. Bit of a slow start, but they are rolling and have put together a great year in the MIAA. Congratulations to them. Coming up in the 5 o'clock hour, we got our headlines. My chat earlier today with KU offensive lineman Bryce Cabeldue and some Royals hot stove rumors. Stay with us for one more hour. 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Final hour of this Wednesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Dan Lucero, Brendan Wrzinski with you. Two-man game this afternoon. Our guy Spencer Dupuis going to Minnesota. He's never been. He's going to St. Cloud, Minnesota with Washburn women's basketball. So he'll be out Thursday and Friday as well. But you'll hear Spencer's call of Washburn women's basketball right here on 580 WIBW. Friday afternoon, a little matinee. I guess not really a matinee. The early afternoon tip, 4 p.m. tip-off. So 580 Sports Talk will be short on Friday. We'll have a full day, though, of sports. A little Sports Talk abbreviated from 3 to 4. We'll have Washburn women's basketball from 4 to 6 as they open up regular season play this weekend. And then, of course, we'll have the 580 Preps Coaches Club and 580 Preps Playoff Football on Friday night. 5A West action, Seaman and Valley Center will be our 580 Preps Playoff Football game of the week this week. That's our Friday schedule, and that's why Spencer's not with us right now.
All right, trivia time.
Okay.
The Washburn men and women with their season opening events this weekend, okay? The men will be in Kansas City. That's where I'm going to be on Friday. I will not be here for Sports Talk. I'll be in Kansas City with the Washburn men. They play Sioux Falls and Minnesota State Mankato. I still call them Mankato. They try to just go by Minnesota State now. The women will be in St. Cloud, Minnesota, taking on Southwest Minnesota State and St. Cloud State. Can you name those four opposing mascots?
All right, St. Cloud State's the Huskies.
Correct. One of one.
We know that one. They got a Division I hockey team.
Yes, they do.
I think they used to play DU, Denver University, Colorado College, I think, quite a bit.
They're a really good program, too.
Southwest Minnesota State is the Mustangs?
Correct. 2 for 2.
All right, and then who were the Washburn men opponents?
The men play Sioux Falls and Minnesota State Mankato.
Mankato.
Just won a national title.
Yeah, they
did.
did.
The nation.
Mankato. Are they the Grizzlies?
Think alliteration. The Mavericks.
Ah, okay.
Minnesota State Mavericks. And Sioux Falls.
Sioux Falls.
Which is a fairly new member of D2. They've only been up for about a decade.
See,
12 years maybe.
I'm having trouble because I know two teams from Sioux Falls, the old CBA team, the Skyforce, and their American Association baseball team, the Canaries. Neither of those is correct.
No. They also have two Division II teams in Sioux Falls, like a block from each other.
Huh.
Because Augustana is also in Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
How about that?
They play more of their games at the Pentagon. Do you have a guess?
Sioux Falls.
No alliteration here.
Grizzlies.
Cougars.
Ah, okay. They had 2 for 4.
I'll take that.
Yeah.
I give half credit.
Like 500 batting average gets you the Hall of Fame.
That's right.
You'd be the greatest baseball
You'd
player.
be the greatest hitter of all time.
So that's a look ahead for us. It is the start of the crossover season in Washburn athletics with football and still in play, basketball starting. So we'll be crisscrossing the Midwest the next couple of weeks here on 580 WIBW and the home of the Ichabods, of course, Country 106.9 as well. In the meantime, we got one more hour of 580 Sports Talk today. And in this hour of the show, we'll talk a little Royals baseball. Interesting tidbit from The Athletic about how the Royals might try to add a leadoff hitter to their roster, what they might be willing to part with in order to bring one in via trade. Also, earlier today, I had a chance to chat with KU senior offensive lineman Bryce Cabeldue. It was a fun conversation because offensive linemen are always fun conversations. It's our KU player profile, and it's coming up in just a little bit. You can interact with us here on 580 Sports Talk in one of two ways. The Top City Metal Supply text line is open. Shoot us a text, 785-272-9429. You can also jump into the YouTube live chat. We've had a great crowd in the live chat today. If you are watching on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, there is a live chat feature. You can post in there. You can interact with other listeners and also interact with us. You jump in there right now, you can see my 5 favorite Pantera songs of all time. I tossed off a ranking. I already want to move it around.
All right, let me see it here. I missed it. Top 5. Revolution is my name. 5 Minutes Alone. Walk. Becoming. Mouth for War. All good. Man, I think Walk might be the only one that's also in my top 5.
I'm already upset that I left out By Demons Be Driven.
That's a good one. Thoughts on the Great Southern Trendkill?
Fine, not their best work.
Yeah, I would agree.
But did give us some good stuff. Did give us Drag the Waters is on that one. Yeah, Drag the Waters should be my top 5.
Yeah, it's a great song. I love that album. But I understand it is not either Vulgar Display of Power or Cowboys from Hell.
Far Beyond Driven is my favorite.
That's fair.
That's the I think that's the one that went to like number 1 on the Billboard charts.
Yeah, Far Beyond Driven also has I'm Broken, which is instant, like smash your head through a glass window pane.
Another one I should have posted the top 10 clearly and not giving it some real thought instead of just tossing it out there. Anyway, join us in the live chat is the point. It's a great way to interact with us and with your fellow listeners throughout the show. If you're watching on YouTube, again, the channel is 580 Sports Talk. Let's get into some 580 Sports Talk headlines, shall we? The big headline last night, the most contentious thing that happened last night, Tuesday, November 5th, that the whole world was talking about, the first college football playoff rankings of 2024. Great bit that they did it on election night because nobody had the energy to argue about this stuff. Absolutely no one had the emotional or mental bandwidth to argue about the college football playoff. And so if you missed them, totally understandable if you did. Here's how it shakes out. Oregon is number 1. Not a huge surprise. They're number 1 in both of the major polls. Oregon is 9-0. Ohio State 2. Georgia 3. Miami at 9-0, 4. Texas 5th. Penn State 6th. Tennessee 7th. Indiana unbeaten at 9-0, 8th. BYU, the highest ranked Big 12 team, 9th. And then Notre Dame 10th, Alabama 11th, and that would be your playoff field, essentially. If you assume that the highest ranked teams from each of the power conferences would, in fact, be conference champions, and you accept Boise State as the highest ranked group of 5, that top 12 would be your playoff. If the season ended today, Oregon, Ohio State, Georgia, Miami would get byes. You'd get Texas, Boise State. I'm sorry. No, that's not how it works. That's not how it works at all. It would be Oregon, Georgia, Miami, and BYU getting the byes. And your first round matchups would be Texas and Boise State, Penn State and Alabama, Tennessee and Notre Dame, and it would be Ohio State and Boise State, Texas and Alabama. Again, we get to see that one again. Penn State and Notre Dame, and then Tennessee would take on Indiana. Those would be your first round matchups. Other ranked teams in the Big 12 include Iowa State at 17, K-State at 19, and Colorado at 20. I caught some flack on Twitter for this. It might be the last thing I ever post on the website. We'll see. But I caught some flack on Twitter for this, saying that I believe BYU should have been ranked ahead of Indiana. Now, I know Indiana is 9-0, hashtag 9-Windiana, and they are a wagon. They are a convincing 9-0. They are beating everybody into a pulp. Who's their best win? I hate to do it because they're not an SEC team, but Indiana ain't played nobody, Paul. Ain't played nobody. It's great that they're pounding everybody. That's very convincing. I'm not sitting here saying I don't think they're good. They don't have a win as good as BYU's second best win, which right now is Kansas State. Because their best win right now, according to this poll, is SMU, who's ranked 13th. First team out.
It would either be on the road at Michigan State last week or home for Washington.
And both of those teams are sorry.
At least Washington's a bowl team.
Yeah, Washington.
Probably. I assume so.
I'm just saying, like, resumes got to matter too, right? Like, you have to, like, the incentive to play good teams and beat good teams has to still exist in this thing.
Yep.
Instead of, oh, Indiana, Big Ten, that's where half of our funding is. That's where half of our influence is. The other half, of course, being SEC influence. So instantly, Big Ten. The rankings go Big Ten, SEC, ACC, SEC, Big Ten, SEC, Big Ten, Big 12, Notre Dame, SEC, and Group of 5. Those are your 12 playoff teams right now. So your ACC team, your token ACC team, your token Group of 5, your token Big 12, Notre Dame, and 8 of the 12 teams from the SEC or the Big Ten. Get used to it. That's what this is going to be. Every single year, if they can find a way to make it so, that's what it's going to look like. And again, I will remind people, I will make the same speech that I made back when last year's college football playoff, which was the 4-team event, was held without an unbeaten conference champion in Florida State. I will tell you this. When it is only a selection that gets you in, you don't have to, care who wins. This is a made-for-TV event. It's not a meritocracy. It's a made-for-TV. It's a made-for-TV event, and you don't have to care who wins. Why do I feel differently about this than I feel about the NCAA men's basketball tournament, which also has at-large teams get selected? I've been alive for that my whole life, and I still believe largely in the fairness, the equitability of that process, that everybody's got equal skin in that game, at least in the Power Four. I don't believe that about this college football playoff, and I'm never going to.
Even if they don't perfectly follow it, you also know, okay, the NCAA basketball tournament selection committee has the net rankings. They have the KPI, not to be confused with the RPI. They no longer include KenPom, or did they just add KenPom? Either way, they have the KenPom numbers. They have various metrics that they publicly disclose, that they are strength of schedule, strength of record, all of that, conference record, conference strength of schedule, all of that they look at and use as an assessment tool. The College Football Playoff Committee says, SEC go brrr, like that. That's it. That's what they do. The SEC Playoff Committee, the College Football Playoff Committee says, well, we like these schools. We know more people are going to watch when X school plays an X time slot, and that's why we're going to seed it this way. It will never be just, frankly. And I mean, they've screwed it up multiple times. I still don't believe Ohio State should have even played for the national championship in 2014. I'll never get over that. TCU deserved that spot.
Yes,
but
correct.
A decade ago. A decade ago at this point. It's not a fair way to do it. I still believe if you have to have a playoff, which I don't think we need, because not every sport needs to have the champion determined the exact same way, go back to the BCS. Retool the formulas if you want. Go back to the BCS.
And just give us one championship game at the end. No, I genuinely believe that was the best system they ever came up with. It was the fairest compromise between let's actually crown a champion, but also let's make it so that the regular season matters and people can feel good about a 9-3 season instead of feeling like 9-3 is a failure.
And if you want that to be a playoff, okay, the top 12 in the BCS ranking is getting the playoff. And if you want to try to eliminate some of the biases that came with it, okay, fine. Y'all got a bunch of nerds. Y'all got people who know math. We're talking college here, okay? You guys can figure out how to remove some of those biases that come with the computer systems. Determine it that way. The other thing about the old system that I liked better, and I'm sorry for getting on the soapbox here, it's not just that the regular season matters less now. And I love this game's had all these viewers and you guys are all tweeting about the game, so you must still enjoy it. I thought the regular season didn't matter anymore. That's not the point, Andy Staples. Shut up. The point is that some of us care. In a sport where teams go undefeated fairly regularly or have one loss fairly regularly, I think I love the way that if you lose one game, you're out. Or if you lose 2 games, you don't have a chance. You're not competing with the top. I think that's great. I think saying, a team that lost 25% of their games is actually just as equal of a contender for a championship as a team that went undefeated. I don't think that's proper in college football, to be honest. But aside from that, not only does the regular season matter less, but the postseason matters less. Playing in the Orange Bowl used to mean something. Playing in the Rose Bowl used to mean something. Now it's
just random draw. The 4 versus 5 game is the Orange Bowl this year. Yeah, just a random
means
draw.
Nothing.
No.
And that stinks. Why are we so quick to eliminate the things that are cool and good and unique?
Reject modernity, embrace tradition.
Yes.
100%.
I have a lot of thoughts about this, and they often include referencing how all Taco Bells are ugly gray boxes now. But we can save that for another day.
You got a headline for us?
Yep. First headline for me today from our neighbors across the state line to the east. Barely, narrowly, by the slimmest of margins, the state of Missouri has, for now, passed legislation for sports gambling in the Show Me state. This is from the writing of the Missouri Independent and journalist Rudy Keller. By the time the NFL playoffs begin in January, sports betting will be legal in Missouri. The only remaining question now that voters approved in Amendment 2 is whether bettors will use platforms licensed in Missouri or if players will have to use accounts linked to licenses from other states. That would be super weird, but I mean, if you're in Missouri, fine, whatever it takes. The result on sports wagering wasn't clear until the final votes were reported from Greene County after 1:30 a.m. this morning. The Southwest Missouri County voted 55% against sports betting, 45% for it, with the unofficial results from the Secretary of State's office statewide. Out of 2.9 million votes, under 7,500 decided it. 7,486. That is insane to me. Bill DeWitt, president of the St. Louis Cardinals, released a statement. Missouri is some of the best sports fans in the world, and they showed up big for their favorite teams on Election Day. Not really. It barely passed.
It's also a big win for Winning for Missouri Education, the committee that really backed Amendment 2 in Missouri. The biggest financial backers of Winning for Missouri Education, a couple of companies you might be familiar with, FanDuel and DraftKings.
Yeah.
They poured $41 million into advertising for the campaign.
Yeah, we'll see. There was an opposition campaign that was being funded by Caesars.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of infighting that's been going on between industry and legislators in the state of Missouri over this for a long time. Here's who's the big loser in all of this.
Kansas.
Wyandotte County, Kansas. The unified government of Wyandotte County.
Coffee shops and gas stations just on the Kansas side of State Line Road where degenerate Missourians were driving so they could get their parlays down on Saturday mornings before the kickoff of the 11 a.m. games. Yeah, those are the big losers.
Well, I'll take it a step further. Chiefs ain't coming. Royals are going to get a new stadium, and the Chiefs are going to say, we want a sports book. And now they can get one at the Truman Sports Complex.
That's a good point.
I don't know if this means the Royals won't come either. I mean, shoot, it's possible. I doubt it. I think the Royals are going to end up somewhere near or in downtown Kansas City. But this, to me, says it is over for the Chiefs coming to Kansas.
That was the big draw, right? That was the one thing that Kansas could offer that Missouri could not, was the access to gambling dollars. And now Missouri will be able to offer that as well. I tell the state of Missouri, like, I think people in Kansas can tell you when sports betting passed, there were a lot of promises made that have maybe not been kept legislatively. And
some great journalism about that out there.
Yes, there is. So,
here's
I hope it works out for Missouri.
This is a fascinating law in Missouri. Casinos must be within 1,000 feet of the main channel of either the Mississippi or Missouri rivers. So they can't just drop one in, like, Joplin and say, here you go, here's a casino. You can't do it. That's bizarre.
Build one next to the Super 8 in Boonville off of 70.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, you're right, though. I was thinking about the Chiefs moving. You're right, though. Although, the Trader Joe's parking lot that straddles the border with Missouri no longer going to be the gambling haven.
People hogging the Wi-Fi at like a Denny's off of State Line Road so they can get their anytime touchdown plays in while they're eating their Sunday brunch and go right back home to Lee's Summit or wherever it was that they live.
I have a group of friends who I did sports talk with in college at KU, and we got a group chat going, and every Sunday morning we put together a group touchdown scorer parlay. We actually hit it 2 weeks ago.
Nice.
That was sick. I care more about not being the one who screws it up more than I care about the one actually winning. I believe it. So he lives on the Plaza in Kansas City. And we'd get it in like an hour and a half before kickoff. He would drive across the state line, get the bet in, and then head back home for the games. Now he won't have to do that.
One final headline for me. Coming up after we're done here on 580 Sports Talk, we've got K-State women's basketball. They look for a 2-0 start to their regular season after they dismantled Green Bay on Monday morning, really. Tonight, K-State takes on Belmont, another solid mid-major program as an early season test. It's a 6:30 tip at Bramlage Coliseum. we'll have the pregame coverage starting at 6 o'clock on the K-State Sports Network. Of course, K-State men were victorious in their season opener last night as they took down New Orleans. Their next game is Saturday afternoon, a 3 p.m. tip-off against Cleveland State. That is K-State's next home game. And right now, I'll take caller number 3 at 785-272-9429. Caller number 3 gets a pair of tickets to that Saturday afternoon K-State basketball game against Cleveland State. Caller 3, 785-272-9429. When we come back, it's our KU player profile of the week with senior offensive lineman Bryce Cabeldue. It's next on 580 Sports Talk. .529 on 580 Sports Talk. Coming up in a bit, we will have a little baseball talk. Off-season is underway. Royals are going to be active. They've already signed Michael Wacha. They're looking to add a bat to the top of their order. What they might be willing to trade to get one. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. But first, earlier today, at KU's weekly media availability, I had a chance to speak with a stalwart member of KU's offensive line over the last few years, redshirt senior Bryce Cabeldue. Really enjoyed the conversation, and I hope you will too. Here's our KU player profile on 580 Sports Talk. This week's KU player profile lets us get to know a senior member of the Kansas offensive line, Bryce Cabeldue, joining us. And Bryce, coming off of a bye week, I have to know how you spent the bye week. Were you able to decompress a little bit? What things did you do over your bye week and on the Saturday where you would have had a game?
I was able to decompress, thankfully. This Saturday, I went and played 9 holes with a couple of the offensive line guys.
All right, so let's start right there. How is your golf game?
Just about as good as everyone else. Terrible.
Are you at least the better player in your group? Who's the best player in the group of O-linemen you would play with?
I think it's me. I don't think it was in the beginning of the year, but I think I've improved enough to claim that title.
I got to imagine you're at least long off the tee, Bryce. I mean, it's 6'6", 315. You got to be putting that to some good use, right?
Yeah, I don't have to swing it back a whole lot.
That's helpful. I am not 6'6", 315. So whatever length I get off the tee, I really got to work for. So glad you got an opportunity to do that. You watch any college football or any NFL on Sunday, or did you just kind of take the weekend off from football as a whole?
I try to catch the Iowa State game. I watched most of that game, and then I'm a big Pittsburgh Steelers fan, so I watched that game.
Okay, Steelers fan. How are you feeling about Russell Wilson as your quarterback?
I was a big Justin Fields fan in the very beginning, and then I wasn't too sure how why they would bench him, but I'm just going to let them do their thing. Russell Wilson's been playing really well, so if they're winning, I'm happy.
You got to let Russ cook, right? That's what they say.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Bryce Cabeldue is our guest, our KU player profile here on 580 Sports Talk. You've got this stretch of games left, Bryce, and an opportunity in these final games of the season to kind of rewrite your season story a little bit. Has that kind of been the focus and the talk around the team is, look, we have an opportunity to change our narrative, to change our story, and do that one game at a time?
No, absolutely. I think every single game, everyone thinks that we had it was a close game. We should have won those games, and so we could play with any team in this country right now, any team in this nation, and so just knowing that, with the record that we have, I think. It just gives us a little bit more confidence into thinking, we can go out there and win these games. We're not getting blown out we haven't been blown out by any team. And so, the way we practice, the way we're building our habits right now, everyone still believes that we could go and turn the season around, make a bowl game maybe, and, have a better taste in our mouth after the season's over.
Certainly, Iowa State will provide a challenge this Saturday as they come to Arrowhead Stadium. When you prepare for a game like this against a defense that is top tier, one of the better ones certainly in the Big 12, scoring defense-wise, what are the things that you really try to focus on in terms of your preparation, both as an individual and with your fellow offensive linemen going into a game like this?
We have to know what their base defense is, how they're going to pressure. I really think the main thing is just we want to focus on ourselves. We want to focus on how physical we're going to be. We want to focus on where our edge is. And so, I think the most important thing is to know exactly, other than, assignment, alignment, and all those kind of things. I think the way to win a football game is through physicality. And that's something that we just try and preach in the offensive line room every single day, because with that physicality, you can make a couple mistakes, but your effort and physicality is what typically wins games.
What has it been like to get to play at Arrowhead Stadium, to play in the home of the two-time defending Super Bowl champions and have access to some of those facilities, locker rooms, things like that? What's that been like for you?
It's been really awesome. Just going over there and playing in the Chiefs Stadium. The grass is amazing. The facilities are amazing. It's not home. I love playing here in Lawrence. I love playing in the booth, but thankfully the Chiefs Stadium is just as nice.
We're talking to senior offensive lineman Bryce Cabeldue, our KU player profile this week on 580 Sports Talk. Mentioned it earlier. I mean, obviously you're an offensive lineman, so this goes without saying, but you're a big guy, 6'6", 315 as listed on the Kansas Athletics website. Were you always the big kid, or was that something that kind of you grew over time and grew into the frame that you have now?
I've always been the big kid. I've always been the tall kid anyway. Growing up in New Mexico, there's not a whole lot of tall people over there. I was skinny all my life though until I got to college, but I've always been pretty tall.
Your bio on the KU Athletics website says you began playing football when you were 10. Was it something that was an immediate love for you and passion for you that you assumed that you would pursue as far as it could go, or did it take time to grow into that?
I'd say it took time into it. I played football growing up. I had a cousin that lived across the street, and we'd always go and play catch. He was a quarterback. I always wanted to play receiver and tight end and all that stuff. I started playing, like I said, or like you said, I started playing whenever I was 10. And I played quarterback all the way up until freshman year. And then, I played all the freshman year. I didn't play football my sophomore year, and then decided to come back to it my junior year, and then started playing tight end my junior year, and then got moved down to O-line because I couldn't catch. And then played pretty well playing offensive line, and then went on to my senior year and ended up getting a couple offers for football.
So is that the corollary? Like they say defensive backs are wide receivers who couldn't catch. Are offensive linemen tight ends who couldn't catch? Is that how that works?
I think offensive linemen are just tight ends that look a little bit better, a little bit more handsome.
That's entirely fair. Bryce Cabeldue, our KU player profile here on 580 Sports Talk. Also in your player profile, your bio on the KU Athletics website, you describe your hometown of Clovis, New Mexico as having the best food in America. So tell me a little bit about the culinary scene in Clovis, New Mexico. What's good there specifically?
My favorite restaurant over there is Leal's. My favorite dish is a crispy chitteriano with brisket and two green chili enchiladas over there. And so every time I think of good food, I'm thinking of New Mexico kind of food. A lot of green chilies, a lot of things, enchiladas and things of that nature.
Yeah, so I grew up in Colorado, and I also grew up surrounded by really good Mexican food to the point where I've kind of been a little snobby about it as I've gotten older and moved across the Midwest. Do you find yourself feeling that too? Like you go out and like, yeah, I can enjoy a burrito or a taco, but man, this just makes me miss home.
Yeah, no, definitely. Here in Lawrence, there's some pretty good places that I like to eat. Like Poncho's has a really good breakfast burrito over here. I don't know too many people who know Poncho's, but every time I go over there, I'm not disappointed with their breakfast burritos.
All right, I needed a Mexican food recommendation in Lawrence. You got any others? Like, what's the go-to Mexican spot in Lawrence?
Oh, Lulu's is pretty good. I was surprised. I walked in there and it smelled like a good Mexican food place, and I went in there and I was really surprised. It was really good.
All right, one last question for you, Bryce. As we move forward, you have decided to major in business, and one day, as it does for everybody, football is a chapter that closes. When it ends for you, what is your hope? What are the things that you aspire to be able to do with your life?
I'm not exactly too sure what I want to do for a career. I'm a business major. I'm a supply chain major. And so, I don't really know exactly where I want to live or where I want to, or exactly what I want to do. But, I just want to make sure that, I'm a good man first, right? I want to have a good family, I want to praise Jesus, wherever I'm at.
Bryce Cabeldue, senior offensive lineman for the Kansas Jayhawks, our KU player profile this week on 580 Sports Talk. Bryce, enjoyed the opportunity to get to know you, have enjoyed watching you play throughout your career as a Jayhawk. Best of luck to you and your teammates the rest of the way.
Thank you.
That is Bryce Cabeldue. Offensive linemen are such great interviews.
Man, I am hungry for a burrito right now.
Yeah, I could really go for a burrito.
Back in the day, my move was always Salito Lindo in Lawrence. Unfortunately, it's gone. It's burned down,
didn't it?
Oh,
yeah, I had enjoyed Cielito Lindo myself.
That was always a popular spot. Now, I don't and never have drank, so it didn't affect me, but I don't want to get anyone in trouble. But let's just say lots of students enjoyed margarita night at Salito's. La Tropicana in North Lawrence as well. Very good.
Okay. All right.
Good green salsa verde chicken enchiladas.
They really do have a distinctive Mexican food style in New Mexico. It is very green chili forward.
All of New Mexico is kind of like the art, the culture, the architecture. New Mexico is very much its own thing.
Yeah, it's actually kind of a cool place. I haven't spent a lot of time in New Mexico, but I have been down there before, and it's a cool place. Albuquerque's a pretty low key cool city, a lot going for it.
I've heard that about Santa Fe as well. I've never been to New Mexico. I was going to ask you earlier when you mentioned Spencer is going to Minnesota for the first time with Washburn Women's Hoops. Have you been to Minnesota?
Yes, I have. I have been. Now, I have spent a lot of time in Minnesota. In fact, I'm trying to think. I think I had lunch there once when I was in North Dakota with a junior college women's volleyball team for a national playoff game.
You in Grand Forks and then drive across the border?
Not Wahpeton.
Oh,
yeah. Wahpeton, North Dakota. And then I stayed a night in Austin, Minnesota when that same JUCO volleyball team was on its way to the national tournament in Wisconsin Dells. So we stayed the night in Austin.
Oh, the Dells. What a place.
Yeah.
I've only been once. Grew up not far, but no, I've only been once. I went for my wife, one of her best friends, got married last September, and we went up there.
Sure.
But yeah, it's the only time I've ever been in Minnesota.
Hear good things about like the stadiums there, like Target Field and US Bank Stadium. Hear good things about the stadiums up there. Anyhow, we'll take a break here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, promise you baseball talk. The Royals looking to add a bat. What would they be willing to subtract? We'll tell you next. 580 Sports Talk. .544 and 580 Sports Talk. Now we're playing my favorite band literally of all time, Queens of the Stone Age.
This is probably my favorite Queens of the Stone Age song.
How to Handle a Rope.
A Lesson in the Lariat. Yep.
Oh, man. Mine used to change like every 5 minutes. Very high on my list. Love How to Handle a Rope. Man, you really...
That's probably number one for me.
Oh, my goodness. I had to picking a favorite Queens of the Stone Age song is like picking I only have one child, but it'd be like picking a favorite child if I had multiple children. It's very, very difficult for me to land on one.
They have an absurd number of hits.
They do. Man, you're killing me. Tangled Up in Plaid. I'll just spit one out. Tangled Up in Plaid. No, it's In the Fade. It's In the Fade.
In the Fade is great.
With Mark Lonergan as the vocalist.
When I went and saw them last fall when they played at Starlight in Kansas City, the entire encore was Mark Lonergan's songs. He unfortunately has passed away in recent years. So all 4 encore songs were dedicated to him.
Big shout out to NHL 2003, the video game that I played a lot when I was a sophomore in high school with my brother. And No One Knows by Queens of the Stone Age, which is probably their most well-known song, was on the video game soundtrack. And that was what introduced me to the band. And I sought out their catalog, and I've been a fan ever since. That was my gateway drug, NHL 2003. No One Knows.
Madden 03 was my gateway drug to Andrew WK.
Well, you only had the one album, so you didn't get too lost in the weeds there.
No, he's got multiple albums.
Does it really?
Yeah, I think he's got a lot of them.
Party Hard is undeniable.
Yeah, it's an all-timer.
It really is. All-timer.
He's still dating Kat Denning? I think he is.
Oh, how about that? Good for him. Good for Andrew WK.
Yeah, no, he
hope he's still partying hard.
Yeah, he in fact has 6 studio albums. His most recent one came out in 2021 titled God is Partying. Yeah.
All right.
It's kind of his thing.
Royals baseball. We got the hot stove going. The off season is underway. And this from The Athletic, Will Salmon and Katie Wu put this out last night. Talking about the Royals' need to upgrade run production. To upgrade their run production, they write, the Royals are looking to prioritize quality contact and on-base percentage, and conversations are underway at the general manager's meetings this week. Kansas City batters struck out just 19.4% of the time, third lowest in Major League Baseball, but had just a 306 on-base percentage, 19th in baseball. Too often, the Royals made contact on pitches out of the zone. They finished with the 5th highest rate of contact on pitches outside of the zone. What that tells you is they're not being selective enough at the plate. You can swing and make contact. That's wonderful. Contact is good, but contact with quality pitches is even better. Anyway, improvement at the leadoff spot, they continue, may help the issue. The Royals ideally want a better version of Garrett Hampson. That is such a funny thing to write. They want a better version of Garrett. Hey, Garrett.
I mean, relatable. I get it.
The Royals ideally want the version of Garrett Hampson that showed up in games 1 and 2 of the American League Division Series. Right-handed batter who plays center field, second base, and shortstop. Among the players who might fit are Jonathan India and Spencer Steer in trade, and Jurickson Profar in free agency. I'm going to stop right there. Jurickson Profar cannot play second base or shortstop. He is a left fielder. Yeah. That is what he is and what he does.
And, I mean, to be fair, I could live with that.
The interesting part here at the very end, if the Royals explore the trade market for offensive help, league sources suggested that they would listen to offers for pitchers such as left-hander Chris Bubich and right-hander Alec Marsh. Now, I had thrown Marsh's name out when we were talking the other day after the Wacha signing. You signed Michael Wacha for 3 years, so you've solidified that you've got Cole Reagan's under team control. I believe it's for the next 4 years. And you've got Seth Lugo for this next year. And you've got Wacha for the next 3. Brady Singer for this year and next, I believe. He's got 2 years of team control left. And then Alec Marsh with 5 years of team control. Like, you're set in your starting rotation. But also, you have in-house options like Kyle Wright, who's coming back from the shoulder surgery and won 21 games 2 years ago. So he not chopped liver. His shoulder might be, but we'll find out. Chris Bubich could be an in-house option. Daniel Lynch, who gained some confidence at the big league level with his bullpen work last year, could be an in-house option. So I thought, it's going to be hard for the Royals to pay the going rate for like multiple offensive players, but they might be able to trade for one and then go sign another. Like, I think it's realistic for the Royals to target one bat in free agency, but targeting 2 bats after giving Wacha $17 million a year, that might be a little tougher. So,
I agree.
So I think a trade makes sense. And you could talk me into like Alec Marsh being really valuable with 5 years of team control left as a back end, middle of the rotation starter. Bubich, to me, though, like, I feel like that's a guy, and I guess it depends on the Royals' perspective of him. Do they think he can move back to the starting rotation? If they do, I think they should keep him. If they think he's just a reliever, I think they should think about trading him and seeing if another team might value him more as a starter than the Royals do. You can convince me.
I think a team that makes sense, one of the names they bring up as a potential trade target is Jonathan India, who the Reds already were kind of trying to get rid of last year.
Right.
I don't think Jonathan India is a bad player. I don't know that he is an especially good player. Former Rookie of the Year last season, had a 105 OPS plus, so that's 5% better than your league average OPS. 15 home runs, 1.7 wins above replacement. I mean, that's okay. That's fine. Now,
career on base percentage of 352 in 4 seasons.
That's better than a lot of Royals.
Drew 80 walks last year in 637 plate appearances. Do you know how many Royals drew 80 walks last season?
1.
No. The correct answer is 0. The team leader in walks last year is Bobby Witt Jr. He drew 57. And look, I know the walk is not like the end all be all.
It's valuable, though.
But it is. It is valuable. When the hits aren't falling, you have to find other ways to get on base so that you can be on base when Bobby Witt Jr. hits the ball over the fence or into the gap. Like, that was one of the biggest problems with the Royals offense last year was if Bobby wasn't going and Vinny wasn't going and Salvi wasn't going, you had nothing going. You have to have an igniter. There has to be somebody at the top of the order who is an on-base threat, and it helps if they can run.
The stat they include in here, Will Salmon and Katie Wu of The Athletic, about Bobby Witt Jr. having the most plate appearances in baseball with the bases empty among non-leadoff hitters is crazy. Like, that's really gross, frankly, for this Royals team. I'm in agreement with you on how they can acquire players. I think you can take a slightly bigger swing at a free agent this year. I don't know if Profar makes the most sense. He has had such
he's only ever been good with the Padres. You look at his numbers in any other organization. He was so bad with the Rockies 2 years ago that they let him go. Like, they've got any room to let go a good player. And then he was an all-star with the Padres. It might just be that's the environment for him.
Yeah,
I wouldn't take the chance.
For his career, has 8.2 wins above replacement. 3.7 of them came this season. Yeah. Almost half of his career wins above replacement production came in one season.
I like this.
And he's in his early 30s.
I like the Spencer Steer idea. Even if he's right-handed, I would love to see the Royals get another left-handed bat. Like, Steer's got some legit thump, back-to-back 20-homer seasons. He can run, stole 25 bases last year, and he can play a bunch of different positions. He can play left, right. He filled in at short last year. He played second a couple of years ago. He's played some first base. Like,
sounds very Royals-y.
Yes, that's the kind of versatile bat with a little bit of right-handed pop. I could really see the Royals. Like, I feel like that makes a lot of sense. Steer for Marsh, you could talk me into that.
Yeah, you could talk me into that as well. The so OPS plus, again, production number 96 for Spencer Steer. 100 is league average. How many Royals finished with a above 100 OPS plus?
Witt, Vinny, Salvi.
Michael Massey.
Michael Massey.
Michael Massey was at 105, so slightly above average.
Yeah.
Everybody else was 94 or lower. And 94 was Hunter Renfroe. I would take that.
Yeah, and I'd plug Steer in left field and not look back.
Yep.
We'll take a break, come back with a final word after this. Wrapping up, walking off this edition of 580 Sports Talk on this Wednesday with the final word, Brendan.
Good outing by Kansas State basketball last night. It was fun to see a couple of newcomers really put together strong showings, but David Gasson having the best night of anyone, 21 points and 15 rebounds, second best mark of his career in each of those categories, really was the thing that stood out to me. I know it was New Orleans. I know they're really, really bad, but if you can get even like 12-7, 12-8 from David Gasson every single night, that really raises the ceiling for this K-State team. Really good momentum shifting win to start the season.
My final word, I want to expand one last thought on what we were just talking about with regards to the Kansas City Royals and their pursuit of a leadoff hitter. It's just so nice to be able to be talking about the plans that the Royals have to upgrade their team. And one, realize that the team they're talking about upgrading is a playoff team from last year. And two, to feel confident that they're going to do the smart thing, that they're going to acquire a player who will help them, who does have a skill set that can help them. And if they have to make a trade, then so be it. It's just refreshing to be able to talk about the Royals like a team with a competent front office and a plan, which is what they are now. And that's really great. K-State women's basketball coming up next. 6:30 tip-off against Belmont, 6 o'clock pregame. We're back at it tomorrow from 3 until 6. For Brendan, I'm Dan. See ya.